Welcome everybody to the Last Poll podcast. I'm here with Sab. I feel like Super Smash Bros. Music should play or something like exciting, like Challenger here. I don't know, whatever. But Sab's
We
here,
could do that.
Darren's here, Silhouette is here. Welcome to the podcast. We're going live early in the morning for some gaming. I'm excited. How you doing, folks?
I got coffee. We're good.
I'm
I'm
great.
tired. You know what? I'm good. I didn't get coffee, but you know what? I'm pumping. I'm excited for the spearing. So I'm good. Actually, yeah.
Yeah, we have returning challengers, Sab and Darren's, but big shout out to Silhouette for hopping on in there. Yeah, I've seen, I saw one of your videos in particular that inspired me, and it was the one where you do the guide for how to buy raids. Guess who sent me that? Take a guess at who sent me that video.
Was it Mr. Pot?
It was MightyTeapot. Yes, he said, look at how based this is, and I was like, whoa, this.
Yeah,
I was like, this is
pretty-
insanely based. Wow.
This is very nice.
Yeah, I do like making videos about Guild Wars as a game, and doing the traditional guides and stuff. But I do also like doing some more meta commentary, meta stuff. And I feel like that was a video that was in my head for a long time. But I was like, how do I work this out? Like, I got to transfer to EU. I got to coordinate with people. It was a mess.
Oh, it was.
But
so
I'm
good.
glad you enjoyed it.
Well, what's even better is that I've come into my dark sneb arc, which is where when I see things that I think are just like ridiculous or like super funny or whatever, I just also meme. Like I just troll as well. So I left a comment that was like, I was so inspired I immediately bought raids, and you just replied also in jest or something. And you know what? I was like, yes, this is a good person. I like this person.
Yeah. You replied like I immediately bought raids, and I was like, hey, let me know what group it is so I could buy another one.
Oh, that's really good.
That was good.
I tried to display that it's like, hey, I don't have to buy raids, and then there's still people that kind of miss the satire of that video and go on and be like, you don't deserve the title, and it's like, I don't care about the title. It's entertainment. That's what it was. It was entertainment, and just kind of breaking the mold, because if you type in how to buy raids in Guild Wars 2, or how do you buy a raid clear, how do you buy a sell, there was no video on it. And so that's what kind of inspired me. And I was like, after 12 years, nobody has done this.
Yeah, I encounter that a lot. I think there's many things that never explained, and like we all know because we play the game, but like nobody knows how to do very basic stuff, and making a video out of it or like a post or whatever helps so many people. Well, of course, gives you a lot of views too, which is pretty cool, right?
I had to completely change how I viewed raid sellers after talking about it for once, because I used to just immediately think that they were all terrible people and greedy and selfish. And then I started to have to unblock a lot of people because I was doing raids and the runs were good, and I was like, why can't I talk to these people? And I'm like, oh, turns out a lot of the amazing players that you end up playing with are also the people that just happen to sell raids on the side. So that, I stopped thinking that.
A lot of people that sell raids. Look, now that we're into this topic, I'm gonna go in head first here. So I had this like weird moralistic thing about selling raids for a long time. I thought, no way would I ever do that. It's wrong. It's evil. And then I realized how much gold people were making.
You got sold to the devil. All right.
Yeah, your ethics
I still
went out the
haven't
window.
done it. But now I just kind of sit there like a disgruntled old man on the porch watching the kids play on the front yard and being like, this sucks. Because I could have made tens of thousands of gold. And you know what? Training, you get all of the bad stuff, and you get a little bit of the good. But the raid sellers, they just get paid, right? Like they might get the bad stuff, but they just get paid, right?
So I have a question for you. Do you think it's more unethical just to sell the raid, like from a morality sense, right?
I don't think it's unethical at all.
Yeah, I mean, you guys all know how I stand on it. Go watch the video if you have any questions. But would it be equally dirty to sell raid training? Like, hey, you give me
Ooh.
150 gold and I will train your static.
No, I actually would love it if people did that. I actually think the
Yeah.
biggest problem with raid selling is that people think that that's the only way that they can do raids, and it makes people think that they're far more difficult than they actually are. And it's so painful to me because I'm saying this with probably a ridiculous amount of confidence, but I think that I could take any raid static and have them clearing wing 1 to 4 in like 2 weeks.
Easy.
It would not be hard at all. If big asterisks here, if they're willing to listen to everything I say and do everything I tell them to do. And that's actually that hinges on everything. The problem is that so many people, they're like, yeah, I really want to do raids, but I'm not willing to do the things that raids require. And that's going to be what really holds people back. And that's why selling is so popular, because people think, I want to do raids, but I don't want to do all the crap beforehand. And you know what? Fair enough. There's nothing morally wrong with that. And the sellers who are doing it, also nothing morally wrong with that. People get all in a huff about it on Reddit and stuff. I think that they're just mad that these sellers are making way more gold than them.
There is some jealousy, definitely.
Yeah. I think it's also the fact that they feel like their accomplishment means something. It means less because they did it the right way, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is kind of fair. I think honestly, the biggest question is maybe not is it morally wrong, but is it good for the game? I guess.
And I would argue that it's good for the game to a point, because I think there are people that legitimately will never do raids unless they buy them, and for a multitude of reasons. But I think right now Guild Wars 2 has this big issue where people legitimately believe that there is no other way to get into raids other than to buy. And I think this is a particularly unique NA problem, but it's because they look at the LFG and they're like, damn, there's nothing here. It is a toxic wasteland. Nothing exists in this place. Total Fallout, exit the vault, nothing here.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel that there on NA particularly, there's a real reliance on statics, and I think statics for just regular clears, yeah, it's everybody's fault in here, right? But for regular clears, I feel that statics are subpar to pug groups. And that is
that is not true at all.
A strong it is. So it is very true. And I'll
wait, what do you mean? Like what, like, so in what way?
In terms of getting a reliable weekly clear after a static is tuned up and you have 10 people that know what's going on, statics are superior by far, right? Yep. But when you were talking about uncoordinated or unexperienced groups where you just have semi-experienced, you have people that have 3 characters geared and can play 3 roles, pugs are far, far easier to clear raids with, because you are only responsible for yourself. And if you join a group or create a group and look for particular roles, if that role is lacking, you're not stuck in a static with this person and you have to wait for a week or 2 weeks to have them get gear. You could just kick them and then fill. And then if that fill doesn't know what's going on, you kick them and you get another fill, and you could just rotate through the community, get a fill.
That logic only applies if your static started from ground zero. I'm starting a static that is starting off only with people that are basically those experienced pugs you're referring to.
Yeah, sure. And if you can find 10 people that are multi-class that can fill every role, then statics are the way to go. But if you and like your 2 homies that play Guild Wars 2 and have, 3 hours to play per week, like, pugs are the way to go. You could fill pugs easy.
Yeah, I think lately it's been a bit harder to fill them up, but yeah, I mean, and the issue, I guess, is that you can, get people who you can just rotate through people a lot of times, and then the raid complete crumbles, and then you're stuck, right?
I think you're missing.
I think there's
really
advantages and disadvantages in both.
There's something really important that you're missing, and hold on, I just realized I clicked something. Okay, there we go. I think you've missed something very important, and there's a qualitative element to this as well. I don't want to kick people every pull. I don't want to keep kicking people. Kicking people sucks. It's one of the worst feelings ever because you have to basically go to someone and be like, son, you're horrible at the game. And not only that, but you're completely banished from this group.
So, it's you don't need to be mean about it. I mean, literally. So
it's
now
inherently mean. There's like nothing you can do to avoid it being a little bit hurtful.
It's
The problem is Snev is just too good of a person. That's the problem.
Yeah,
You have to enjoy the kicking. You have to go like, yeah, you don't do any damage, draw Omega, and then just kick him. Okay.
Wasn't this the Rose MMO take? He's like, I love being mean to people. I love giving them bad news.
Hey.
So I don't like being mean to people, but right. So like I'll tag up for a wing 1. I'll get all the way through Veil Guardian. You get hard carried by a Heal Scourge. You go through Gorseval. It's literally basically a DPS golem. And then you get to Sabbatha, right? And in Sabbatha, you hit up your squad chat because nobody's in Discord. You don't know any of these people. And you're just like, hey, I need some cannons and like all flat kite, or does anybody want a flat kite? And then after about 3 minutes of nobody talking in chat, you say, okay, well, if you joined as a DPS, I'm going to start kicking you guys one by one until somebody decides to do this.
You just start Russian rouletting your entire group of DPS. I mean, that is based.
And you know what happens? As soon as that message gets sent, hey, all 1-3, hey, all 2-4. Let's just get it done. Because nobody wants to Roger up. They know how to do it. Everybody knows how to do it. I mean, the raids have been out for how long now, right? Everybody knows how to do that. But
they're not confident on it.
They just don't want to be the guy to do it because they want to just want to turn, hey, this is a pug group. I'm going to just turn my brain off, do my rotation and call it a day.
I don't want to beg people to do the mechanics though. I just
you
like
you don't beg them.
Yeah, you don't beg
them. I don't want to do that either.
Well, you don't flame it, but you say like, guys, look, if you don't do it, you're out.
Dude,
is that flaming?
This happened to me literally like yesterday. We get to Sabbatha and I'm like, who can do cannons? And there's 3 people that are like picking their nose and they're like, what's a cannon? And I'm like, this was like an experienced group. Like, how did this happen? Why are we here? And
you hit
it.
You hit him with that yeet.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes it's not even about being an asshole. It's about I don't know how to describe it. It's about not being taken advantage of, right? I think like standing your ground makes people give you what you need. And I definitely used to have this problem, also IRL, but I've learned how to not do it, and now it helps for games as well. Like, and then you're not really an asshole. You're not really an asshole, but you will stand your ground, and if they can't do it, well, unlucky, they have to leave, and that's about it. And it's not weird, it's not bad. It's just just go.
I worked for a car wash under the table in high school, and there were 3 of us that ran like the vacuum, right? And someone was guilty of vacuuming up everybody's money that was in the car and then later retrieving it. And the owner was like, since we don't have a camera back there, I don't know which of you 3 is responsible. So either one of you is going to confess or I'm firing all 3 of you. I've taken that approach a couple times when I'm in like one of those like, hey guys, I only have 2 hours. I need to get all of these wings done. And I'll say, all right, slubs are such a good example. I said, I need slubs 1 through 4. Give me volunteers or I'm kicking all the DPS. So I don't actually have to start cycling through them. I'm just like, either you guys volunteer or I replace all of you. And immediately, 1, 3, 2, 4. Yeah. I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah, and you can even say something like, oh, well, if you guys want to learn it and you don't know how to do it, you can just try. It's fine, but someone has to do it because otherwise we're kind of stuck here. And we can't really continue, right, unless we get someone doing it. So we're going to have to get someone else, right? It's nothing
Sneb,
personal.
I don't know if you can relate on this. Sneb, you can probably relate on this. You train enough raids, you get to the point to where you can give like a 10-second spiel on the fly, and the group will have an idea. Like the fast-paced raid trainings. I know that in under 30 seconds, I can explain the mechanic, but there comes a point in time where I stand on principle, and I'm like, I'm not teaching this group right now. Like, just either do it or go away, because I teach enough. So I know it might only take 30 seconds to explain it, but I'm guilty of that. I don't always explain it.
Well, I mean, as long as if you're an experienced group, I don't think it's your responsibility to teach it, right? Because like, look, if they're experienced, they should probably know. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean, if you have experience, regardless of if you do KP, I don't do KP personally because I was once a young man who lied my way into raids using the sneb approach of, hey, I don't have KP, but like I know what I'm doing, just trust me, bro. And that worked for me. So I feel like, hey, if you join an experienced group and you are unexperienced, that's the problem, right? And if you get kicked out, that's your own fault.
It's funny you
Yeah.
say that. When I do join KP groups, I've never actually been asked to show anything.
Yeah, I never ping KP
Ever.
either.
Yeah.
Well, it's not
that's
even that
true.
I don't ping it. It's that they don't even ask. It's like it's just it's a scare tactic, and they
Yeah, it is.
expect inexperienced people to just not join, and it works honestly.
You know what
Yeah,
I've been
because
doing?
honestly, yeah.
I've been doing something insane. When I do, I just do like the most crazy, obscene troll requirements ever. I just say like, must give me your firstborn child, must ping banana, must 1 billion KP. Like I just like go down this list of just like ridiculous things, and it's actually hilarious. Only like really good players join.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I think it just terrifies people.
Yeah, that's
Maybe they just see the memes and they're like, I want to be in that group. I don't even need the raid, but I'm going in there. I think that's what's happening.
that's just a normal fractal tier 4 listing on EU. That's all it is.
I have a so speaking of EU and KP, I'm genuinely curious. Are the like 250 bone skinner KP requirements for IBS 5 on EU? Is that real?
No,
Like,
there's no way.
I see them all the
heard
time.
that. I have heard that
Like,
a lot actually, but
I get screenshots of it all the time because I used to be like really anti KP, and then I was like, okay, never mind. It's a tool. It can be used wisely. I find myself in situations where I'm like, okay, it kind of makes sense. I kind of wish I did use it. But I get PMs all the time of ridiculous EU KP requirements, and that's the most common one. It's 250 of the bone skinner vials. Just
you know
for
what?
IBS, like
who
5.
cares? That's the thing that I really struggle with. All of these people that are complaining about ridiculous requirements. Guess what? This is gonna be the most base thing I say all day. Guess what? In all of that time where you took a screenshot, made a Reddit post, complained about it, yelled about it, you could have made your own group. You could have made your own group with no requirement and everyone would have joined it. But guess what?
Well,
You don't make your own group with no requirement because you don't want to play with other people that have no skills.
For me, it's amusement. I'm genuinely curious to know, like, are there people out there who actually want that? That was, to me, it was funny. Oh, yeah. See, IBS 5 high, looking for high DPS, 250L IBS. That's EU. Yeah, it's real.
I think it's just, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous, but like, it's not your responsibility to, make the group, and it's not your responsibility to join, right? Like, if you don't want to join, if you can't do it, I mean, who cares? As Snap said, to create your own group or join another one. Doesn't really matter that much.
It's no big deal. I'm being hyperbolic there, obviously, and probably a little bit evil. Dark Sneb arc, by the way. But in all seriousness, I don't understand why people complain about this because it's so. And I'm not totally delusional here. I get that there's a requirement, 300 gold commander tag. I get those things, but let's assume that you have the commander tag because guess what? I have tested this theory. One time I had a triple trouble group and I was begging, pleading people to tag up because I was on alt accounts managing all the worms and I was begging them to take one so they didn't have to do all of that at once, right? And no one would do it. So I was like, and somebody in the chat was of course like, oh, Sneb, like nobody has a commander tag. And I was like, BS. I right clicked and 70% of my squad had a commander tag, but not a single person was willing to tag up. So I don't even really buy that as being the main issue. I still think it is an issue, especially for like lower level instance content, but still
I've never thought of doing that. Just click their name and dime them out. Yeah.
Don't, because then you have to like deal with the consequence of you knowing that your begging is just people being like, nah, I'm not helping you.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
always take the approach of like, oh, I guess we're not going to do the content then. I guess I'll just log out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, but they'll just be like, okay.
Yeah.
yeah. There have been situations where I don't know, maybe like I disconnect or whatever, and I'm doing the meta train, and I disconnect for a good amount of time, and people could have like tag up, and sometimes they do that, but there's a few times where they just literally just leave and no one tugs up and the meta train dies and it's over, right? And they could have just done a few metas without me. Like I'm not needed that much, but people would rather not have the responsibility of being the tag. I think
If you
that's kinda what they
randomly
do.
promote someone to squad leader, they will log out. I'm not even kidding. Like they'll be like,
Not
"No."
just leave.
Yeah, they will just totally exit.
Yeah, that happened to me in Dragon's End. We got the kill with like 3 seconds remaining, and this was like not when Dragon's End was like just coming out or pre-nerf or anything like that. This was like regular day. I was just like, hey, we're kind of slow. We need to do the tail. And then the next thing I know, I have the commander's tag. And it's just like a garbage run. And I'm like, all right, let's
Congratulations, you're
ride
the
it out.
leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the
You
commander
are now one of my elite employees.
exactly. And we got the clear. And then like afterward I typed in squad. I was like, did anybody realize that like this dude gave me commander tag like in the middle of this trash pull? And everybody was like, yeah, we saw it, man. Thanks for stepping up, you know?
Yeah.
So did you
Yeah.
ever, I know we have a similar past in a certain regard. Did you ever experience that in real life? Because there was a point where I was going through what's called MCT, Marine Combat Training in North Carolina. And I was a nobody. I was just one of like 75 people in this platoon. And we were in a classroom environment, and the squad leader, the guide, the person that's in charge, was like pacing in the back, and there were like 2 people talking. And the guide would go up and say, hey, you two, stop talking. And they'd walk away and they'd resume talking. And that just started to piss me off. So they like, the guy told you to shut up. You shut up, pay attention. One of the combat instructors came in and said, you're fired. You're the new guide. And I was like, oh, what have I done?
Yeah.
So the moment you start speaking up, everyone's like, you're in charge now.
Yeah. So I feel like, my wife, what she calls it is called having a thick face. And it's just by being able to go to people and just be like, hey, we're doing this, like, and just not having that emotional element involved. And there are a couple times in my life, for those that don't know, I was in the Navy, and I got deployed to Japan, and I was the SATCOM technician on my ship, and nobody on my ship had SATCOM experience because of the way that they rotate people in and out. So the old SATCOM guy left, and I was his replacement. And so I was an E4 at the time. They gave me the work center. I was a work center supervisor. And there was an issue that came up, and I went to my first classes and was just like, hey, I think this is the issue. And I'm giving them the details, and they were going to go brief our commo, who on our ship was a O5. And instead of just going to brief him, they took me and was like, here you go, Commander. This is your subject matter expert for SATCOM. And I'm like, I've been on board for 5 minutes. Like, what is going on here?
You can never volunteer that you're good at something, or you will be either put in charge of it or given extra responsibility.
Yeah, or if you a call comes in and nobody knows about it, and you start hunting down information, like all of a sudden you're that guy now. You are the expert.
So Darren's, I don't know about you, but in the workforce, never admit that you're good with Excel or PowerPoint, okay?
Yeah,
Because
watch
that will
out.
become your job.
Oh my god, that is terrifying. Holy, yeah, no, I'm not. That's a good advice, honestly. Holy.
No, even if you're good at it, they'll be like, "Who made this?" A friend.
Friend, yeah, I just hired
Chat
them.
GPT.
Yeah, that's good. That is good. They'll never know what that is. It's good. You're free.
I've got something to say. It's really important. No context. Are you ready for this? No context whatsoever.
Let's get it.
Hello. I would like to inform you that you have lost a very valuable member of the static. I monumentally doubt that you will ever find another educated raider with DPS as high as mine. Honestly, I am quite glad to leave this static, as I find you to be an arrogant, incompetent commander who cannot fully appreciate my skills and doesn't deserve to be respected as a commander. Truth be told, it was not I who slowed the team down, but rather the others.
That last line is really what gets me. Like, it cannot be real. It cannot be real. I don't
It's
believe it. I don't believe
real.
you.
It's
I don't believe you.
real.
That
It needs to
that
be trolling. It has to be. Who
You need
says
to-
that? How
wait, so
insanely
that's-
egocentrical can you be? Like, I don't know.
That's
This
the
is-
context. Is that a copy and pasted like report you received?
So, okay, so this is, now that you've heard it with no context, here's the context. So, great member of the community, Gal, Galle, with numbers or something after. You know, he's in a lot of statics, and he was leading a strike CM static, and there's this one raider that just hadn't improved for like 6 months. So we had to sit them down and be like, look, we're going to have to remove you from the static. We're not making any progress. And so they removed them from the static, and then subsequently, Gal received this message. And so,
No way. I can't.
yes, and then was blocked immediately after, of course.
classic move.
Yeah.
That is
You
very
can send
classic.
me that
you know?
so that way I can turn it into a copy pasta for like Reddit comments.
Oh, it is.
I
It
think
is
it's
now
good.
a copy pasta in the World versus World Guild and all this other stuff too.
I mean,
I'm
should
putting it
be.
on a
That is
hotkey.
Embarrassing. Okay.
This
Yeah.
is officially the Guild Wars 2. Like I'm a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
copy.
Yeah. One
I
of
like
my
that,
favorites.
though. I'm very happy that this happened. I know, the guy must be unhinged, but it's pretty funny. It's so funny that I don't know. I'm spraying this everywhere. I'm gonna tell everyone
Yeah.
about this. It's too good.
It's great.
It is great. Okay, what are you guys thinking about the expansion, guys? What are you guys thinking about it? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Do you think it's not enough?
Spearing.
What's
I need
You
to
want a spear?
master my Paragon fashion ASAP.
Ooh, that's true. Have you seen the
I
Nike
wanna have it
picture of the
ready.
Paragon?
Wait, I haven't. Let me go find it.
I'm
Bro,
waiting for expanded housing mastery. That's what I'm waiting
Yeah.
for. That's X-Pack 8, but it's coming.
I'm actually excited for the house fashion contests. That's what I want to do. The homestead
Oh
fashion
yeah.
contest. Yeah, I think it could be very good. I think there could be something there.
If
I think-
ArenaNet does not capitalize on the fact that we now have a home instance, like an actual like homestead that people can visit, and they don't incorporate some aspect of Zaishin menagerie to it, I'm going to be thoroughly disappointed.
You
They
know,
need to
I
bring
forgot
back-
that exists. I forgot it existed until you said that.
They need to bring back the Zaishin menagerie where you go collect random creatures and they appear in your home.
That would be
That would be
very
good.
cool. I think that probably wouldn't be this expansion though. I think that's gonna be.
Oh yeah, no, that's expanded housing mastery coming.
Yeah,
2028.
But they can really build it up. I think the only thing that really matters to me, at least to come in on release, is the fact that I could put my armor and weapons in the walls. Okay, I want my
Oh, yeah.
sunrise, I want my twilight in there, I want my exordium, I want every legendary weapon I have in the wall. Everybody looks at them and they're like, "Damn, Darren has a lot of legendaries," and I'm like, "Yeah, true, I do," and then they can leave and never come back again. That's
Yeah,
all
I
I need.
need a place for all the gold raid statues that you build for the guild hall.
True.
I need a
Yeah,
place
the ones
for
that you
that.
bought.
home instance.
Yeah, with the ride buying.
Yeah,
true.
yeah, the ones that you get from buying raids.
You can just
Yeah,
buy
exactly.
the tokens. You know, okay, this is actually pretty insane, but I started noticing that people are buying the tokens from like all things because people want to have like the giant worm statue in their home, right? And so people are pleading with others like, please, I will
Oh.
buy the token off you. And I think that the economy is only going to go up for tokens. I'd like
Yeah,
to see
no,
tokens to be sellable on the trading post. What do you
Yeah,
think?
buy raids today so you could resell the tokens.
Yeah, I honestly, that's how they solve KP. ArenaNet, listen to me. All you have to do to completely dismantle EU, like it'll burn, like to complete ash, is just make it so that you can sell KP. Every external website will break. Like it would be hilarious. Please listen to this. Do it.
They need
Yeah.
a unstable fractal essence sync badly.
Yeah.
So that way-
sellable.
Yeah.
Make the KP sellable to the merchant for like 2 gold each.
That would
Ooh,
destroy
that would
the
be a bit.
economy.
Yeah, I
It
think
would
that would be-
I'd have
destroy
so
the
I'd have
KP
so
market.
much gold.
Yeah,
I'd finally
Sneb
be
would be
rich.
doing
it would be insanely. Yeah, I think it's
giveaways
better
gonna
to
be
just play
insane.
it to other people.
All the KP people that have been like vehemently dumping it into their guild bank for years are going to be so upset.
Would be funny.
So I
which
think.
of the, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. You first.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, getting back to the expansion, I think that right now the spear is a big question mark for me because I
Really?
feel like I feel like with the other weapons that were released, we kind of had a definitive idea of where they would fit in with existing builds, but with a new two-hand weapon, I feel it's either going to completely reshape the meta to where every build utilizes this as their primary weapon, similar to like the way rifle is on Mesmer, or it's going to be a like, oh, you just switch to the spear, you do these three skills, and then you go back to dagger axe. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's
That's like
either going to
every
be
weapon in the game.
irrelevant or like completely game changing.
I think that's just because that's the Guild Wars 2 meta in general. All the min-maxers are going to identify like what's good and what's not. People are going to use what's good. So the question is it going to have anything that's good? And is it going, like you said, is it going to completely take over? I think every weapon's guilty of that. Like look at shortbow and engineer.
Well, yeah, I mean, I forgot engineer had short bow, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't think anyone remembers. Okay, that was a bit of a rough thing. I think. Yeah, I think they're just gonna end up being very, very powerful. I think that's what's gonna happen because like all the design that we've seen until now, it's kind of interesting. Even if it's not insanely powerful, it seems very fun. I think they're really, for me at least, what the big thing that the weapons need to do was make them feel as interesting in terms of roleplay and in terms of like gameplay as an elite spec. And I don't think the Soda ones did that very well unless there were like very, very specific instances. I feel like maybe Staff Warrior or Thief Axe did that a little bit.
Mace on Ranger
But
was insane.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's pretty
I
true.
feel like that was just because it was a
But
very like overtuned weapon though. It was
yeah,
very
Well,
I'm not
overloaded.
it's not even about that. It's
yeah,
about having that like overgrowth or whatever it's called, right? With the if you do a certain
yeah,
number of attacks, it changes from, oh, I'm just gonna click buttons in a series of ways because of their cooldown to I'm gonna click buttons in a series of ways because of their effect. And
yeah, and I think
that's
that's
quite
very
nice.
important.
So
Yeah, and I
I
think every weapon here does that, which I think is very, very good. And I think that's the reason why, even if they're kind of not the best, people are gonna use them anyways because they're so fun and interesting. But
yeah,
we'll
I
see.
think there are people that are always going to use weapons because of their flavor, right? Like not everybody plays the min max end game, and I think that especially in the end game community where we are more in tune with the min max lifestyle, you know what I mean? Of like, oh hey, like we're gonna use this, or oh this is a DPS loss, but it gives me a little bit extra utility. Like we're more in tune with that aspect of the game, whereas the vast majority of players are just like, oh, Necromancer gets sword, and I always wanted to be a sword necro, so I'm gonna play it regardless. But I feel that ArenaNet should pretty much give up on PvE balance and focus on the fun aspect of it. And now I know that, yeah, challenge is a part of the fun, but if they focus on PvP balance, then they can rein that in. And then they can incorporate a lot of like really fun PvE game styles, which I think that other MMOs do really well. And I think Guild Wars 2 does it really well as also. But if they just accept that, hey, this game is 12 years old. We have a bajillion different things to balance. And if some of them get out of line, like Scourge has been out of line at times, other classes have been out of line, like, and just let it ride. Like, people are enjoying it. People are having fun playing that build. Like, let them have fun.
Yeah,
It's kind of funny you mentioned the whole sword thing on Necro. When that first came out, I was doing they're like daggers better, man. Dagger's better. I'm like by 300 DPS or something.
Yeah.
Based on the benches that were put. I was like, I don't care. Sword gives me some range. I can yeet them. It gives me more mobility. It looks cooler. It's new, so it feels fun. And I just kept doing it. And I was ignoring, and there were a bunch of haters. I had like at least 5 or 6 people constantly telling me you should use dagger. And then like no, like by pure luck, a log gets posted to Snow Crows, and they're like, "Oh, would you look at that? Sword's the new highest DPS. Sword's actually better." And I'm like, "See, all of you tunnel visioned on like the Snow Crows benches and started berating me as if what I'm doing is terrible, only to find out that Sword was in fact actually better." So it's like just.
Well, what percentage of player do you think actually reaches the benchmark numbers?
Ooh.
0.01.
How many of your static DPS members actually come in with the benchmark number? Not 90%, not 85.
Well,
there's
that's
there's
one
exactly
of 2,000
like one
polls.
person that has the
Yeah.
benchmark,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
They
it
can't
might
really-
take them hours. The
Yeah.
video you're watching for the benchmark, that was like poll number 1612.
Yeah.
Well, and it's partly RNG. You guys know that, right? Because there's a range of damage that your weapons do and stuff. So, of course, these people could do it forever, and they do it because they want to get a little bit lucky and get like 500 DPS more. The answer is that no one in my group has hit the benchmark, right? But we all say, well, if we can get over 95%, then that means we probably are doing the rotation correctly.
So
Yeah,
I feel like there should be a tangible number. Like for me, in my pug normal mode clears of a semi-casual, like I think the new term for it is mid-core player, right? My thing is, if you're a DPS and you are pulling 25k, you're where you're supposed to be. How does that number sound to you guys?
Wait, say that number
In
again.
a real
What number?
Yeah,
25k. 25k. As a
At the end of
DPS.
an
DPS
actual
player?
fight.
Wait,
That's
okay,
okay.
wait, rewind here. When you say 25k on the golem, you mean that they should hit 25k on the golem?
25k. If you are a DPS player and you are in a raid fight and
Yeah?
you hit 25k, you're where you're supposed to be.
Well, you can't say that because all
You
of
have to
the
pick one
fights are
fight.
different. Yeah, all of the fights have different downtimes and things. So you just can't
Well,
that
I mean,
sort of general sweep.
during burns, during non phases, not your DPS, and you're
Look,
slubbling half the fight. You know
I'm
what I
gonna
mean?
say the most base thing ever. Then no, you're trash if you hit 25k on the
Yeah?
DPS thing. Yeah, no, you are. Because you have so much more potential than that.
So what's the number?
Can you do the fight with that number? Yes, but you're reaching like 60% of your potential. You can do way better than 25k. I've had people come in and say stuff like, "Oh, well, my team, they only get 25k on the golem." And I'm like, "Well, I can hit 30k by pressing random buttons."
Yeah. So I mean, I think what the differentiation is what is an acceptable number to get the clear. And it's not about like, hey,
Oh, it's 7k
you should
then.
always be striving. Yeah, I mean, so you should always be striving for greatness, right? And I have personally brought people in where I mostly play Condi Virtuoso, right? And I think like my highest bench ever was like 38 or something. And then in actual fights, it's 32. I'm not going to sit here and claim that I'm the best person.
Let's explore that for a second. When you say your highest bench ever, that probably means 4 million health. I think this was in Nike's video called DPS only players are trash. I never recommend people do the whole 4 mil unless you're playing a build meant for something like Karen, right? Where there's no phases, no interruptions, like Mersado Overseer. I tell everyone I come across, learn your opening and maybe your first loop. Do 1 million health over and over and over, and then take that into real fights and build proper muscle memory per encounter. So like what someone gets on the 4 million health golem means absolutely nothing to me.
Sure, yeah, because you're essentially, I mean, But the point that I was getting around to, right, is that I've brought players in where they've had a significant gearing problem on like Condivert, like they're not crit capped, they're not using something right. They have like one trinket that's just in Narnia somewhere. It's got cleric's stats or something. And you change that one thing out and they're up into the mid 20s in 5 seconds. And it's like, okay, that is acceptable.
Yeah, I'm not really. I'm a little bit. I'm lost because to me this is such a. It's a strange conversation because like turns out that you can kill all the raid bosses with like 7k DPS. It turns out that you can auto attack with that core guardian build and do like 30k. When it comes to the golem, for me, the 4 mil or whatever, that's just about consistency. Can you run through the loop multiple times? Because lots of people can't. Like they're not good enough at the rotation to be able to run through it. And so on lots of bosses, they're going to really underperform because they get lost in the rotation, screw up, and they can't get back on it. So it's
even
about
that only applies to like 4 fights.
Yeah. I guess my issue with this is like, look, 25k is a good number. Like you're probably going to do more than most people. And 25k will kill all of the bosses, and in fact will skip some mechanics if everyone's doing 25k. But I don't really understand why we would settle for that when it's so easy to do better. It's so easy. And anybody that challenges me on that, DM me. I will get in the golem with you, and I will have you do more than 25k in less than 30 minutes. It is really that simple.
I think it all more depends on the type of thing you're doing. Like if you're Boon, you're providing a lacquer or quickness, that's probably the biggest thing you should be thinking about. You should be doing damage too, but that's probably the biggest thing that you have to do correctly. And if you're a DPSer, you probably should be doing more damage than the Booners, right? Like if you are doing less damage than the quick DPS, then maybe not, that's not good. Of course, there's certain like Boon Herald like does an insane amount of damage with not that much effort, so that can be a little bit of an exception. But ideally, you would eventually do that more damage than them either way, right? And I think 25k is not like the best, but it's definitely acceptable in most encounters. It's not horrible like 7k would be, even if that is actually something that you could do to win against the boss, right?
Yeah.
But so, I think honestly over 30 plus DPS for a DPSer is probably what you want, more than 25k. I think 25k is more for the booners.
I wouldn't put a number. I would just say you should be doing. I think that if you can hit 75-80% of the bench, then you're probably okay. Now, for most statics, I recommend that people attempt to get 90 because 90 takes like an hour to 2 hours of work depending on the class. But you can hit 80 by just setting up your gear correctly and kind of knowing which skills do the most damage.
So how do you guys feel about this? I often want my best players running Boon DPS because we're talking about what amount of DPS is acceptable, what's tolerable, what's good, what's bad. I think the difference between like a mediocre to good DPS being like 30 and like a god tier DPS at the end of the fight being at like 37, I think that spread is way smaller than what's tolerated for Boon DPS. Someone, I'm quick DPS, and they'll do 8k DPS and no one bats an eye. Someone else, I'm quick DPS, they'll do 29k, and because they're still under the DPS, no one really cares. I think you can squeeze out a bigger improvement in performance from your Boon DPS players by putting your best players on that than the DPS roles. Because like a 6k spread versus, I don't know, a 21k spread. Have you ever experienced that?
Well, yeah, it's because you don't want your boons to suck, right?
Well, it's not even just boons. I know for this, I'm just... So I know for this, it's just damage.
Yeah, he's focusing on like the amount of DPS that a boon DPS can provide in addition to having good boons. And for me, I personally like playing boon DPS, and on my Zero to Hero series, I specifically went into boon chrono because as long as I'm providing the boons, nobody's really going to question my DPS. And I think that's what Sab was pointing out, is because it's not really my job to carry DPS. It's my job
as long as you're above the healers, no one looks at you.
and so it is a good way. If you want to get into and lie your way into KP groups, then play a Boon DPS and just make sure your uptime's at 100%, because nobody's going to question you as long as you are clicking your Boon button.
Yeah, I mean,
It's an unfortunate truth.
I mean, it's true, right? Like when I play in pugs, I only want to play support, whether that's the Boon DPS or the heal Boon, right?
I love playing healer because you could just hard carry the entire fight.
Yeah, it is. The one thing that I do find painful, though, and probably the reason I actually have been enjoying playing Herald recently, is that if I play support, I have to watch the DPS. It's like being the quarterback, and you look and like no one has any gear on, and the other team they're just like slapping them over and over again, and they're just getting destroyed. And you're like, okay, guys, run this play, and they just like fall over. But if you're the Boon DPS, you get to be in the play, and so you can provide the boon that's pretty essential, and you can have a pretty big contribution to damage. Yeah. Not having any damage in your group when you're providing 100% boons isn't a good feeling, is kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I agree. And also, you know what's very fun about being a Boon DPS is the fact that you can carry a little bit, but it's not your responsibility. So if someone dies, you're like, haha, they died, oh my god, and then you can just continue the fight without being like, oh, I should have said and whatever. It just becomes way more fun. And it's one of the reasons why I always pug, because it's very fun to see people die over and over again.
And you can blame the healer. That's big. Don't discount
And you can blame the healer. If you die, like, healer, why didn't you heal me, dude? What's happening? And then it's good. You're good.
Who all's guilty of playing a Boon DPS and fiercely competing against the DPS givers to see if you can beat any of them, if not all of them?
I definitely do that. I definitely do that.
There's nothing that gives me more pleasure than doing more DPS than normal DPS as Quickness Herald. Holy, is the best.
So I have been changed. I have gone through an ascension. Okay. So I began my Ceres journey not having ever played Herald before, and I hated it. I hated every moment of it. In fact, I would wake up in the morning and go, I don't want to play that class. I am bad.
Yeah.
And I would play it anyway. And then one day something happened. I fully went Super Saiyan and ascended, and I became very good at the class. And now I take Condi Quickness Herald into random encounters like IBS 5, and I am the top 3 DPS every single time. And it actually, but it has mentally damaged me. Okay. Because now I look at it and I know that these people, like, I'll be doubling, tripling the damage of other people in the thing. And I'm not saying that because I'm like some really good player. I'm really not that good. But I look at it and I go, holy crap, they have so much potential. But they haven't grasped the potential yet. I must help them, but I cannot help them. It's far too.
You only mained it for LCM. You're totally just not that good, right?
Yeah, well, I'm saying that because I am certainly not the best Herald player in the world, but I've just practiced this rotation to the point where in my mind right now, I'm playing the rotation. Like I close my eyes and I can see exactly which buttons to press at this point. And it's because in order to achieve LCM, you must delve into absolute insanity. And this is the point. I've killed the boss in CM twice, and I've done LCM once, and I've gotten a bunch. I've probably had 30 sub 5% pulls. So it takes somebody who's just a little bit insane to do that at this point.
Yeah, I mean the same thing, the same experience got to me because I also did Quickness Herald and I was horrible at it and I hated it. But eventually, you kind of like get it, and then you're like, oh, this is not that hard and it's super fun, and then you can actually start blasting, and the exact experience it gets to you, right?
Well, the sad part is I'm so good at that one particular build now because I've spent so much time doing hard content on it that if I play anything else, even a DPS, I'm not as good on the DPS. It's actually bad. I don't know what to do. I guess I have to practice a DPS and get good.
Yeah. So on that note, do you think, okay, I like scalable difficulties. I like different tiers of difficulty. Do you think LCM is Do you think it could? Is it perfect? Is it too hard? Could it be a little easier? Having done it, because I haven't done it.
Yeah, here's the thing about LCM. You will lose friends if you do LCM.
Yes.
Like you
Perfect.
will. If you make a team, you have to realize that you're going to have some really difficult conversations. And this is why for my LCM team, I was like, I'm only taking like extreme blasters because I don't want to have to sit down and be like, look, buddy, you're nowhere close to where everyone else is at as far as DPS, and we cannot do the fight unless you do more damage. It's just not a fun conversation to have. So LCM is mostly difficult because not only do you have to do the mechanics, but you have to meet the DPS check, and the DPS check is high. There's really good players that can do it with 9 people. There's one team that's done that. They 9-manned LCM, which is insane. But in order to do that, they had to play perfectly, and they had to basically achieve benchmark, but on Ceres.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that you not only have to do benchmark, but you have to do benchmark on Ceres, right? You have to find ways to do the mechanics at the same time as doing damage, and doing that is pretty hard to realize, like figure out how to do it on each class, right? There's like little tricks that you can do, and learning how to do that, I don't think Guild Wars 2 really teaches you that at all, and it's the first time we actually have seen it. I think not even in Harvest Temple CM, right? I don't think.
So do you feel like for Wing 8 coming out, would you like to see the LCMs of those Wing 8 bosses at the same level of Ceres? Or would you like them?
Yes, absolutely. But I think the one big problem with Ceres is actually that the challenge mode and LCM are not different enough.
Yes.
And I actually don't think that means you need to make them mechanically different. I think you need to make the impact of the mechanics different. And the distinction is this. In the last 10% of Ceres is where everyone just gets stuck forever because it's hard, right? There's a healing check, which is one of the only times in Guild Wars 2 where there actually is a healing check. And so it's difficult for people. I think in CM, if you made it so the stacks gained on the slams was like a little bit lower, then people would be able to kill Ceres CM more consistently. But the big issue is that with LCM, it's exactly the same. Like if you can do CM, you theoretically can do LCM if you just refine your rotation more. That's all you have to do. So I think that you just need to distinguish the things, the malices getting in being 5 stacks. Like on CM, just make that like 2 or 3.
Yeah, just bump it up a little bit. Give it an actual mid tier.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the point. Yeah, like we don't. Normal CM shouldn't be just legendary CM, but a bit easier. It should be this is another encounter, not encounter, but this is another type of encounter. It should feel like maximum.
You should have to learn something.
Well, not that. I think it's more like you should be able to like almost pug it. I think, but that's not the case here. Like, why do you want 2 difficulties that you cannot pog? And you have to pog?
CO,
it makes no sense, right? Like if you had it like if you have it like Anka CM or like even Kanang CM, which is puggable, you have different encounters for different types of people. So you have the normal mode that is like, well, anyone can do it. The CM that's like, if you can do a bit of damage and you actually know the mechanics and you want to have a bit of engagement, you get that one. And if you really want to go hard and progress through it, you have the legendary one, right? And that way everyone gets something for them, for every type of player. And I really don't know why they didn't do that. And I think it's kind of a mistake, honestly. And the fact that they haven't really nerfed that either, I think it's kind of not good. But
yeah, so
hopefully next time we get it, right?
My thought process, I agree with you, Darren, about why do you have 2 things that are unpuggable. And I think Anka is a good example of this because Anka normal mode, super easy, right? You do have story mode, which is soloable, like ultra casual. Then you have normal mode, which is easy for your regular Guild Wars 2 player. Then you have challenge mode, which is puggable. And then you have the challenge mode title where you have extra things you need to do. And for that, you probably want a static. And I think that's like the determining line between normal mode, CM, and LCM is LCM should probably be static exclusive. Like if you are pugging this, then you have the best pug group ever made ever. But for CMs, I feel like they should all be puggable to the level that I would say wing 5, wing 6 CMs are puggable. I feel like that difficulty should probably be where they put the regular challenge mode content at, and the legendary challenge mode should be for the ultra elitists like Sneb.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
agree.
Doom
And I-
Doom CM is in 2 buckets. It's either if you pug Doom CM, it is impossible, or you're one-shotting it.
Yeah, which is
There's
also
no
a
in
bit of a
between.
problem, I think. I don't know if I like that, to be honest, but yeah. I think the biggest thing that I'm excited for Wing 8 is just the story mode, the meta mode. Because like, yeah, we do have Saros in like a story instance, I guess, but like no one's gonna redo that, right? So they can't really get familiarized with the actual content, and they can't start getting invested in it to actually want to do it in the other difficulties. But with the meta, we actually can, right? You can just go and do the, whatever meta is gonna be in the Wing 8, and we're gonna be able to experience the fights in an easier way, more chill way, and then people are gonna be like, oh, maybe I can do normal mode. Oh, maybe I can do CM. Oh, maybe I can even do legendary mode. And I think that's very, very good. We'll see how it works.
I would love
but
to see more groups splitting, very similar to like Escort in Wing 3, which is not exactly the same. I would love to see groups have to split up for you to actually be exposed and learn different things in the same fight. I'm kind of, the whole 10 people in one pile is kind of getting boring.
Yeah,
Do
I
you
think that's just a problem of the
Uh,
way that they do the mechanics. Like a lot of the mechanics, you can essentially bait them. So almost all the time, the same people do it over and over again, right? Um, I think you would have to make it RNG or depending on distance. No, not on distance because you can just bait it. Yeah, I think you also have to make it RNG honestly because of how Guild Wars 2 works.
do you think that there's going to be an LI sync added with Wing 8?
That's a good question actually. Maybe.
I hope
I
I mean,
so.
they're
I kind of doubt it because it's not going to be in the aerodrome. I feel like it's going to be completely separated from Hot and Poff. I don't think they're going to tie it in. I would love for them to, and but I think it's cope. I don't think they're going to do
Because
anything with LI.
I think that the legendary backpack is going to be the Wing 8 and legendary for Wing 8. And I don't know whether they're going to stick with the LI system. I would hate for them to add another currency the way that they did legendary divinations and then went back. They have to do something with some of these unsinkable currencies, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, considering the fact, I remember there was a what's the word? An interview with Grouch, I think, and he talked about. I'm guessing he was talking about homesteads, yeah. But they were like, oh, we have this new feature that is not only going to be very good feature people like, but also it'll be a good way of reworking a lot of systems. And yeah, it probably is Homestead, but I'm guessing that they're trying to do the same thing with raids. And now that they're doing Wing 8, they probably will, remake how Magnetite shards work and how Ally works a little bit at least. Maybe we won't get a sync, but maybe we get like, hey, for 10 or I don't know, for 20 Li, you get 5 Mystic Clovers a week. Isn't that nice? And then, people can actually use them for something.
You get a home a sink in your homestead.
Get a
Yeah.
statue.
You get a
Maybe you can
legendary
gamble
sink.
your Maybe you can gamble your LI. You just throw a LI and maybe it gives you gold, or maybe it gives you one LI instead. That's good. That'd be good. I actually like that. I think we should get that in the homestead. A
LI
gambling
gambling.
machine.
Make
We did
LI
not get
tradable.
gambling.
Yeah, get all
Yeah.
the
Just
addicts.
make it tradable.
Yeah, that's better. That's even better. Yeah, KP
Yeah.
completely destroyed.
Most things could be solved if we just made it tradable, Legendary armor, all legendary weapons, KP.
If you made LI tradable, it would just murder Soto even further.
It's so funny. Yeah.
The population of raiders, I think, would go down because a lot of the people who do raid wouldn't have to anymore.
Well, I mean, that's already kind of the case, and yeah, it would just make it worse.
But hey, those of us that
man.
like it would make more money.
Yeah. So, what do you think about the recent spear thing that came out? I really liked how they did a throwback to Assassin with the combos. I really enjoy how spears and all weapons seem to be doing this like weird twist on trying to make it as close to elite specialization as possible, But in particular, that one stood out to me. I don't know why. There was also the idea that a spear could be either a melee weapon or a ranged weapon. I heard that somewhere. I don't really remember which thing got that. But
I think
like those ideas are very good to me. I am concerned that essentially ArenaNet's it's kind of putting itself in the situation where the weapon is either absolute god tier, one of the best things you should play, or it's absolute garbage, right? There's kind of like no in between, and maybe that was the case anyway. But I mean, Ranger Mace is a really good example of this. I don't think Ranger Mace will ever not be good.
Yeah, but they kind of fixed it with Ranger, right? Because you can play maces, but you can't kind of play anything, right? Like Greatsword is pretty good still, right? Mace is Mace just completely way better than everything. You think? I don't play Ranger that much, so I don't know.
Actually, yeah. Well, for Druid in particular, like the healing is so good, right?
Right.
Druid will never, Mace will never not have a place somewhere. But there are certain weapon kits on certain classes that just don't have a place anywhere at all, ever.
So I think on assassin thief spear with the assassin skills, I think that, like you mentioned, it's a hybrid weapon, right? So it could be Condi or power. And for power, you have a lot of like Deadeye builds that are power focused, and you have a lot of Daredevil builds that use staff, so it's competing with that. And then you also have Dagger Daredevil for Condi, so it's competing with that. So as far as flavor goes, with like, oh, you got the assassin skill chains and stuff like that, I think it can be good, especially if it has unique interactions. Like if you have the ability to stomp people in PvP with some of those skills, that can be really fun. But as far as like PvE, it has a lot to compete with.
Yeah.
We had a good comment now. If Mesmer Spear is another power ranged weapon, I'm gonna pop a vein. Just like how Mesmer holds the great sword, is it just gonna be another magic wand?
No, it has to be a melee power weapon. I think.
That's what I was thinking, melee
It
power,
has to be. There's
because I
no
think power
way.
vert's gonna be popping.
Yeah, and they are kind of buffing Virtuoso as well, Power Virtuoso, so maybe they're trying to set it up, so when the expansion comes out, boom, everyone's playing Power Virtuoso instead. It could be.
I can't wait until Spear is a 1500 range laser beam.
Yeah,
Isn't that great?
you were right. You were right.
Oh my
I
god.
admit
That
I
would
was
be pretty
wrong.
funny.
Sorry, Nike. I didn't mean to
Yeah,
offend, but
yeah, you were wrong.
I was just hoping. It would have been it would have made me sad, but at least if I was sad, I would have been right. But now I'm happy and wrong, so I'll take it as a win.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I like the happy part. I think
Have they
that's a good
announced Spear weapons for? No, they haven't for Ellie, right? We don't know for Ellie.
not.
What do we not know?
Dude.
Ellie, Revenant,
Oh.
and
Mesmer.
Mesmer.
Yeah, and
Okay.
honestly, if Ellie doesn't get ranged, that's gonna be a good Reddit day. Okay, so I'm
Oh,
gonna.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Oh my god, dude, it's gonna be a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're missing Rev, we're missing Mesmer, we're missing Elementalist, and I think that we want, because you remember the first news that they did, right? That give us a little bit of hints, right? I think what we're missing is the old fan favorite and the one that says require precise aiming at range. I think every one of the other ones kind of has been filled.
Wait, which
So I'm
ones? Which
guessing
ones
that
did you say again? The
require
precise
that the precise aiming at range, I think, is gonna be one of them.
aiming at range.
I think
So would that be
that's-
like Necromancer with staff?
I think it's gonna be Ellie precise aiming at range with a
Yeah.
lot of ground targeting
Yeah,
stuff.
I think so. I think they're gonna give them the range, but it's gonna be like, well, you're gonna have to work for it, and it's gonna be hard. So, so they're never gonna be happy. I think that's good.
I think the old fan favorite, didn't that get covered in Guardian? Because the old loot stick staff splash is a part of the auto attack chain.
Wait, sorry, I spaced out. What do you say?
I thought that's what they were referencing for the Guardian. I thought that got revealed. Maybe not. Maybe I'm completely wrong. But I think you know back in the day when staff just had like the splash effect, that it was just like a giant wave that the staff shot out. It was like the ultimate loot stick. Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought that was incorporated in Guardian Spear as a part of the
I don't think
auto attack chain.
so. I didn't get that away from it.
I'm going back to look.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, you could look, but I really don't. Yeah, I didn't have that impression at least. It would have been very cool though, for sure. I think that one, that is the Guardian one is really the one that I actually have no idea what it was. I just put on. I thought it was the skill featuring a new spin on an existing skill type because it was kind of like hey, the little, the symbols are kind of a bit different and they illuminate your weapon. But honestly, I'm not even sure about that one. But the other ones I'm pretty confident on, right? Like the obviously. The Thief one is the remaining of mechanics seen in the original Guild Wars. The Engineer
Yeah,
one is the debilitating effect with the new unique effect. Ranger is the auto attack mechanic, and Necromancer is the multiple ways to reset the cooldown of its key skill, right? And the
yeah.
Warrior one could be the rewards careful positioning or the require precise aiming at range. It could be any of them, but it kind of doesn't matter. And the old fan favorites, yeah, I don't know what that could be.
So
I
they
think that's probably gonna go for like Rev, and maybe we get like Dervish in some way. I don't know.
Oh, that'd be
I really don't know.
awesome. That'd be awesome. But I think so. For Warrior, one of the concerns that I had was they mentioned that your damage increases at distance, or not at distance, but when you're close up.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's going to be a balancing problem, keeping it as a true ranged power weapon. Because if they
Well,
balance it like for the range, then when you're stacked on the boss, you're just going to be doing omega DPS.
well, yeah, but I think that's just a problem of design of the encounters, not as much as the design of the actual bosses. Because like you have to think right now, what's happening? Like everyone is range, because being rage is an inherent advantage, right? Like that's why Virtuoso. One of the reasons why Virtuoso is so good. So if you incentivize people to actually go melee, if they are range, you're kind of like okay, you essentially in some ways you're getting punished by being on range, right? Because you're not doing as much damage as you could. I think that's the way of looking at it. So I don't think it's bad. I think it's because if you did the other way around, why would you ever go melee, right? Like you would just
Yeah,
stay on range all the
I
time.
think it should probably be the same at both ranges.
Do you think
I
they'll ever go
I don't
back
think
to
so.
having a non-boon buff? Kind of like how Paragons and Guild Wars 1 had the chant, and having a Paragon on your party meant everyone had this unique buff only Paragons could give. Now they
No, they're
started
not
that
doing
with
that.
alacrity and
No.
quickness, and those became. So do you think we're like perpetually locked in the existing boons that we have? Do you think they'll ever come
Yeah.
out with a
Yes.
new boon?
I think they
Yeah,
should
I mean,
remove boons.
that's
ooh, that's a spicy take. But I
Like,
do kind of
look,
agree. But I
if
think it's
boons
too
are going to
late.
be
It's, oh,
required
it's too late.
100% of the time, why not just remove
yeah.
alacrity and quickness? Like,
I always
I'm
had
saying it,
a
alacrity
problem
and
with that
quickness
take,
were a
actually. I
mistake.
disagree.
They were a
Then
mistake.
you
I
could
mean,
just run 8 DPS.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Then
well,
just make
it
DPS
was a
worse.
mistake. It was a mistake. I think it is so much more. It gives so much more problems that it gives positives. I think, but I think one is too late to actually
Oh, it's
change
way
it,
too late. Yeah.
and it's way too late. And two, I do think there's something good about having 100% alacrity and quickness because, as you said before, there is a big difference between being quick DPS and being DPS, and I think that difference makes it worth it in the first place. Um, yeah, I think it makes you feel like, oh, I'm contributing, even if I'm not doing DPS, I'm contributing to them in some other way. And that I think that type of hybrid gameplay, I don't think you find them a lot in other MMOs, and I think it's pretty cool in this game. That
Yeah.
being said, I do think Gilrushu kind of misses on the A. I press one button and everyone gets rewarded for it, and that's awesome.
So
Like we have Lost in WoW or like the Ultimates or whatever. I don't remember how they called it in Final Fantasy. I think we could do this with like super boons. We kind of have that with like super speed, I guess, a little bit, but not anymore because it's so you can get it so much. You kind of have this a little bit with stability, I guess, in certain situations. But we should get. I think it would be nice if we get like super protection, and you can press it like once at on the encounter, and it makes everyone that take like 60% less damage, and then you can't press it anymore. I think that'd be very cool. Or like, well, I guess not super quickness, but like I don't know, super fury. No, super might maybe I guess, and everyone just does more damage for like 20 seconds.
So
But
when
that's kind of the about it, and everyone would have to get their same option, right? I think.
real
in
quick.
Guild Wars, you first. Go ahead.
Oh, so the reason why I say no to that so adamantly is because we actually had that before. We had that with Spotter and Power Allies. We had it with certain ranger glyphs that would do different things for your party, and ArenaNet retcon them all away.
Well, yeah, I agree with that for sure. But I think the problem with that one in particular is that it was just a few classes that had it and no one else had it, so it's like horrible to like balance around or like
Yeah.
can make groups around it. But if you give, I don't know, if every
Everyone
healer gets
access to
super
it.
protection and then every boon support gets, you know, super might, then you probably are fine, I think, because like everyone gets the same thing, so it's just a good button that you can press, pog, and then you
If
have
they embrace the Urson way of the Guild Wars 2, where you just don't care about PvE balance, I'm all for it. I'm
yeah,
all
well,
for
there
it.
you go.
So
I mean, I don't think
how do you,
that's ever gonna
where do
happen,
you
but I think in so much you would have to do it. Yeah, yeah, you were saying. Sorry.
where do you guys stand on longer cooldowns? Other games like WoW, you've got your 5 minute, your 10 minute. I've played games in like Ion that have a 30 minute, a 60 minute cooldown. Where like as a DPS player, especially in PvP, that 60 minute cooldown might just straight up one shot somebody, but now you don't get to use it for an hour. Guild Wars 2 doesn't really have that. Or like it's even on Chronomancer, if you have a skill that's 180-second cooldown, you're gonna get it back within like a minute or less because of Alacrity. Do you guys think longer cooldowns in games are good or bad? Do you like having a skill that you know you'll in this 3 minute fight you'll only be able to use it once or twice?
I think it's good, but I think it has to be very, very. He has to be done carefully. I think you should have like one ability like that, and that's it. And you just press the button, and you're like, "Oh my god, I pressed the button!" And then you're done, and then you're good, and then everything is fine. Everything else is like
So
normal.
I don't like it at all. I don't
Okay.
like the idea of not being able to play like the class that I'm playing and using the skills. Like I get it, you balance your strong skills with a cooldown and yada yada, right? But it like if you look at other games like BDO, you could just blast your combos out like over and over again. And it's a lot of fun. It makes the combat system very engaging. And I think that that's one of the strengths of Guild Wars 2. And when you start cutting back on being able to use these flashy, very well animated, big explosion abilities, it takes away from, that dopamine rush that you get of playing your class and feeling powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's like it should be like taken back. I think it's just more like we should get like one ability that does that, like over the ones that we already have, so it doesn't feel like we're taking back out of them. Because I think the experience of pressing one button and only being able to do it once a fight, I think it's an experience we don't have, and I think it's a meaningful experience to have, and it makes the other abilities feel more meaningful because you can actually press them all the time, right? Like the contrast between them makes it more interesting, I think. But
This is interesting. I don't really have a strong opinion on this. I think Guild Wars 2 is just different than other games, and it doesn't really have. It has an elite skill, but honestly, the elite skills are really only like high
another,
cooldown elite skills are really only relevant to like PvP. Otherwise, it just kind of doesn't matter that
Yeah, their
much.
elites hardly matter at all. That's why I tell people all the time, especially the virtuoso lovers. I'm like, if there's any amount of CC needed in this fight, please bring this skill, because your elite skill that you think is cool is only doing like 1% of your damage. It's not worth it.
yeah. I think, yeah, I think having elite skills that do damage is probably a mistake. I think like the Guardians ones are pretty good. Um,
Yeah.
like I
Well,
like when I'm Movebander and I get like, oh, do I go for CC? I don't know. Do I go for the little bit of quickness in case that people are missing it out? Do I go for the renewed focus for some reason because I want to be invulnerable? I think that's pretty cool.
yeah, I think that relics were supposed to be some of those like high cooldown, interesting thing, but then they just didn't do that really.
I mean,
So
they're just different six. You know what's the word? They're just better. They're just different runes, I guess. Yeah, it's kind of what it is. I think they're fine the way that they are. And they could go a bit harder, but I think I don't think they were trying to do that with them. I don't think they wanted to do like big cooldowns with them. But
I think I only know like 3 relics that have ever been introduced. Like
really, I
thief,
really. Mhm.
thief, flock, aristocracy, I think, and then I know the names of a couple other ones, but it's like, oh, that's useless. Fractals.
Here's a conversation that took place in my community last night that I actually think was a really good one, and I would love to hear more opinions on. It was someone said take your raw damaging sigils out of the game and allow for more diversity. Kind of like you said, having an elite skill that only does damage is kind of a bad idea. And you know, the end result was, or I think the general consensus was, if you took like force, impact, and night like out of the game, people would just find the next best thing that gives the most damage, and that would just become the new thing everybody uses. But I thought the concept was pretty solid. Like, if the purpose of the sigil is just for more damage, 99% of the sigils stop existing.
Yep.
And that applies to the relics too.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Energy sigil, most important sigil in the game in PvP.
In PvP, very important. Relics that straight up increased damage shouldn't exist. I definitely agree with that. I think it was definitely a mistake to I think in sometimes it's like okay. Like for example, I think the Peitha one is pretty good because it just makes more damage when you shadow step the stuff. So you only use it in very specific builds. I think that's pretty cool. But stuff like fireworks and thief, they're not really. They were not a good decision, I don't think. We made everyone forced to do those ones, right? Which is very, very not good. I did like the new ones. Specifically the one that gives you more healing, the more power damage you do. I think that one is pretty good.
Zakaros.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that one is awesome.
Good.
I found Peitha to be super fun because it changed my playstyle even when I don't have it, if that makes sense. Like, especially on Bladesworn, I can't help but flicker step at specific times because I'm so used to doing it for the boost that even when I don't have it, I find myself doing it. So yeah, it changed the way I play.
I think it's awesome. I think that one is a very good example. Yeah, I think
it
that's what
taught
every
me
damage relic should be doing.
It taught me, like, what's the word I'm looking for? To conserve those skills. It taught me to just not just spam them and not just use them freely. It taught me to use them for a purpose, and that was cool.
Yeah. I think that's what a lot of the relics kind of didn't do is what they had to do is change the rotation in some way. They had to make them feel like WoW tier sets, because like in WoW tier sets we get them like every season, I guess, and it just changes the way that you play your class. If it's the same class, but the rotation is a bit different because of the new sets, right? So relics should have done that, right? I think sometimes they do. There's a few examples, like what we're talking about Peitha, but I think most of the time it doesn't. I think in Necro, for example, it kind of does because you want to keep up your fireworks up at all times. But Thief really doesn't do anything at all. You just press all the buttons and you'll get the buff and you'll be fine. So,
yeah, you have to maintain the stacks.
Yeah, exactly. Also, so I've seen a lot of people talking about, because nobody liked Soto that much, right? I guess most people didn't like it, but people are kind of saying like, but people are saying like Janther Wilds is just gonna be another Soto. It has no content or whatever. But I really feel like, at least what we have right now, what you're seeing, it just looks like Janther Wilds is gonna have like way more than one Soto and comparable to normal expansions a little bit. Like I would probably, for what I have right now, for what I'm seeing, I would rather play Janther Wilds than I would have played Path of Fire, for example. But
So
I don't know. What do you guys think?
Currently, you'd rather play a game that doesn't exist than play Path of Fire. You'd rather play nothing than Path of Fire.
So
yeah, exactly. Path of Fire was, I don't know, that was horrible. I hate that expansion. It's so bad.
So I've thought about this a little bit, and I would prefer a 2-year expansion model over what we currently have. So what I would like to see, or what I would like, is screw the whole, because it basically is kind of like a 2-year expansion model anyway, right? But instead of having like half of the expansion release, just go to a 2-year model, and then that way you release the entire expansion. You have time to fix whatever bugs come out. You have time to actually let it cook for a little while, so you aren't releasing LCM as the CM and then retroactively being like, oh man, maybe we overtuned that a little bit, and then throwing a CM in the middle of it like it's like the plan all along. Like let's let it bake. You could come up with the concepts, you can actually flesh out the systems, do appropriate marketing, and like I just feel like the like dev to release cycle is so fast, especially like your guys' lifestyle is a little different than mine. I have like 8 hours a week to play the game. So the content that I'm doing is great, but if you had like, okay, all the content was released up front and you had that extra time to actually sit down and play certain aspects and kind of dive deep and figure out what you like and dislike, there's a lot of Soto that I haven't played. Like, I mean, I did the story, I've done the end game content releases, but like I'm not going to go back and do side stories. There's no point, especially because I have the new thing right around the corner. So I feel like the dev cycle of every year is good, but I would take a 2 year dev cycle and like a $40 or $50 expansion. I would pay double if I got the
Ooh.
whole thing up front. Give me
Money,
the
money,
Question
money,
for
weapons,
you.
money.
give me the
Question.
weapons, give me all the stuff up front, and I'll pay double.
So what?
Ooh.
So how would you? Do you think? Where do you draw the line at content drought? What is a content drought? How long do you have to go without content for it to be called a drought?
So we've had a lot of content droughts. Heart of Thorns to Path of Fire was a big one, and then
How
post
long was
Living
that?
World,
Do we remember?
I want to say it was like a year or
2 years.
2 years. Yeah,
HFD
it
to
was.
POF is 2015 to 2017. So
We did have Living Room Season 3 in the middle though, and Living Room Season 3
yeah,
did give us stuff, right? We got, let me just
lots of
check because I have a
maps and
little list
stuff.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We got
and
4 maps and we got 9 types of instance content between raid, well, bosses. I mean, fractals and raids, right? So, and we got
so
Gen 2. Oh no, wait, no, yes, forget it. Yes, keep talking. I was right.
so what I'm saying is this, right? Is like you have a year, like, so say expansion drops August of this year. You have that entire year until next August is that expansion's marketing, right? So that would be Soto marketing year, right? Everything comes out in August and then you market it for a year. Next August rolls around, you're marketing Janthier Wilds, but it's not releasing this August. It's releasing next August. And you get everything up front, and then it's Janthier Wilds marketing, and then so on. And it cycles that way. Um, as
Mm,
far as content drought goes, there can be things that get included in a 2 year dev cycle, especially we're getting 2 full expansions, quote unquote, 2 full trickle fed expansions. You could add a little bit more. You could add a fourth map in the middle of that and have that be the little bonus content the same way they did Gaella Delves with EOD. And I mean, Gael Del,
no,
not a good
please,
map.
no.
I'm not saying on that level of content, but I'm saying as far as content
Anxiety
cadence,
increasing.
as far as content cadence, I'm not saying Gael Delves is a standard, but what I'm saying is as far as like you release an expansion and instead of Living World Season 3, which is arguably great, it is a top tier period in Guild Wars history, but if you include a singular map as a kicker, as a follow up story to Soto, like, it does, please God, not another Internios area, but, something along those lines. Then you can basically bridge that gap a little bit so that way you don't feel like you're in a drought. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like,
I
there are
think you're just
ways
gonna.
of avoiding the drought.
So you
I think.
you said you want a 2 year. Sorry, Darren. You said you want a 2 year cycle, but you also defined the 2 year cycle as a drought. So you want a 2 year cycle, but you want meaty
So,
things of value in between.
it's not. The thing about Heart of Thorns that was rough was that you didn't know if anything else was coming. So if ArenaNet said, "Hey, we're going to a 2 year model, and this is our release, and we're having another release in August of 2026," and in between, 6 to 8 months after the release of this one, you're getting a follow-up map. You're getting 4 maps with this expansion, not 3. All 3 maps are up front. It's the entire complete story, and the 4th map has its own little side story. That would be appropriate, and I would pay more than $25 for it.
Well, the problem there is that like you're just kind of remaking the old model though. It's kind of like the same thing. Like we used to have expansion every 2 years and Living Worlds is in the middle, and that really didn't it kind of didn't really work out. I think, and I think they tried that, but for some reason, I'm guessing also is because they didn't really charge for Living Worlds season, which is kind of a mistake,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But they just don't seem this system seems to be just doing better for them. Right?
Oh,
I
I'm
think
sure that it's better for the company in terms of money. I
no,
think
no,
that
not
I
not
think
not
they
not in
could charge
money
charge
specifically.
more for Soto. I think $25 is a
Yeah,
steal for what you
yeah,
get.
I kind of agree. But
Yeah.
it's not even about the money; it's just about the
Still hate it
consistency
though.
and like the
Oh yeah,
security
I
in
don't
it
like
all,
it.
right?
I didn't like don't get me wrong, it's a turd sandwich, right? And I'm not gonna pay $25 for a turd sandwich. But
Clip it.
I
Everybody
I
spread
would
that
pay
everywhere.
I would pay for a conversation between Sil and Nike because Nike said Soto was one of the best.
Wait, what?
Hmm.
I don't think did Nike actually say that. There's no way.
I'm
probably
pretty well. I
meant-
think he said that it's Soto brought more to the game than EOD, and that Soto was a better expansion than EOD. I think that's what he
Whoa,
said.
did he
No way
really say?
Nike
There's
said
no
that. Did
way
he
he
say
said
that?
that.
so I
I'm-
think
Yeah, I think regarding content, like what it brought to the game, it not like he said, like look at EOD. What did we get? Dragon's End. You know,
so we got HTCM, we got 4 strike missions that had like appropriately balanced normal and CM modes. I feel like EOD, as far as content that it like replayable content that it brought to the game, and one of the questions that I brought up earlier to my viewers and my channel was, do you feel that Soto is going to be replayable like in the long run? It's not. It's going to be a Gaela Delves. It's going to be a tunnel. The entire expansion is the tunnel.
People do the tunnel though. I know it's impressive, it's incredible, but they do it. They do it because it's good gold.
People do it.
And people do it. I'm one of the like every time I say like, man, I hate the tunnel. Everyone is like, I love the tunnel. I love tunneling. I love the meta.
You
I love going in there
you
and
just
getting
get trolled
gold.
by your chat, dude. You
I
get
don't think
trolled
so,
into
dude.
the tunnel.
There's so many. There's actual good amount of like. I made a video one time about how much I hated Yellow Elves, and I got like 50% dislikes on the video. Like, actually, people actually like it. I don't know. I don't get it
Guys.
either. It's just what.
No, wait. So I mean, this goes even deeper. This goes into like human psychology. So, have you ever watched American Idol? You know, the singing show. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know how in the old days they used to have like really bad people audition, right?
Yeah,
like,
William
it
Hung
was like
made his career.
embarrassing, right? So, but the people that are just like mid, nobody cares about them, right? The people that are insanely good, they're like, wow, right? The people that are insanely bad, it's so bad that it's actually become good. And I think that that's what the tunnel is. It's so bad that people actually enjoy it.
They enjoy it. I think
No.
they just like going in there and just getting the goal and just chill and they go into their turtle and they like because like I've heard a lot of people being like, I would rather do the tunnel than any Soto meta. Have heard a lot of people saying that. And that is pretty insane to me because like I'm sorry, but I know the metas in Soto are not the best, but they're definitely not the worst. Okay, like Skywatch is kind of boring. Amulet is kind of but the Inner Nails East part is pretty fun. The middle part is pretty and the new one is definitely not good. But people have actually said that a lot of times, and I would rather. Okay, I don't even know. I would rather pay 1,000 gold than do the tunnel. Okay, I hate that. I hate it so much. I can't.
All right,
I can't
I'll
do it.
take the tunnel.
I haven't done my weekly.
Sorry, I'll
I don't
take
even care.
1,000 gold. Yeah, you can pay me right now.
Okay, yeah, well, yeah. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it.
Offer
I hate it
accepted.
so
I won't make you do the tunnel there, and so you can just give me the 1,000 gold.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Snav. Thank you.
So
I appreciate it.
I feel like story wise, EOD was far better than Soto was. And I
Yes,
mean, like realistically, I hope
Yeah, 100%.
I'm interested to see how it ages because it's a different monster, right? Like EOD, we got elite specs. EOD, we got a bunch of other stuff. EOD, we got variant weapons and full set of legendaries. Like EOD brought a lot of stuff to the table, and it's hard to compare, even though that was the last expansion before Soto. It's hard to compare the two because they're different things.
yes,
With
and
Janthier Wild,
it took longer to do too, right? Like we had
it
like
did.
way more of a gap, right? You would have to
Yeah.
compare EOD to like Soto plus Jumper Wilds, kind of a little bit, right?
So
kind of
I'm
insane.
excited for Janthier Wilds because we'll get to see if the studio actually can correct some of the errors because
Yeah,
EOD had a lot of problems too, like the whole Dragon's End with the turtle egg thing, like the whole marketing of the turtle, and then it was bad. There were a lot of faux pas from the marketing department at ArenaNet's premier marketing. Um, but with Janthier Wilds coming out, we'll actually have an equivalent expansion to compare Soto to, and we'll be able to actually like gauge it on its own home turf type of thing. Because if you compare it to anything else that's been released, pretty much everybody says that it's not good. It did have some good things in it. You know, it's not entirely garbage. It's still worth buying. But let's be honest. Story not good.
yeah,
Everything else, there's a lot of problems. You know what I mean? And hopefully in Janthier Wilds, we see those problems addressed and
Y-
corrected.
yeah. Because like honestly, Soto with the amount of stuff we got, it could have been very good. Like if the metas were good, if the story was like not even good, if the metas were a bit better, if the story was a bit better, if well, I guess that's only the things, right? If the instant content was a bit better tuned as well, specifically for
Bro,
Dagda, this
Lonely
would have been a
Tower
great expansion,
CM,
right? What?
the Lonely Tower
Oh,
CM,
that's. I don't want to talk. Why are we talking about this? I want to leave this podcast. I don't want to
that
talk.
is
About
live. That made it to live.
yeah,
How
I
did
don't
that
even know.
happen? You know what
I
I
don't
mean?
know.
And that's why I'm saying, like, hey, I will give you I will pay twice and give you another year to not put that in the game.
Well, yeah,
Let it
but I
bake
think
fully. Don't give me raw food.
yes, I would agree. But I think look, you kind of Lonely Tower should never have happened ever. Like I don't know. Like I think it's just you're making a
Oh, we're
compromise of
talking about the
something that should
fractal.
have never happened, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Look,
oh
I almost
yeah,
forgot the fractal happened. I'm not gonna lie. I was like so disturbed and traumatized by my experience that I actually tried to shut it out. But now that you've reminded, I've had these insane flashbacks of me joining Grimjack and a bunch of these other guys that are like really good players. We went in and we realized that the only way to win was to exploit the fight. And when
Yeah.
that happened, I went, wow, I'm leaving. So I didn't play it again. I have not played it
yeah.
since, and I do not plan on playing it unless it's
Is it-
fixed.
I was gonna say, is it better at all yet? Because I don't want to touch it until it's
it's not fixed.
It's not.
So
It will
not
never
even
be
gonna
fixed.
I
bother
don't
with
even
the
know.
They will
Yeah, I don't think so.
never fix it.
So my issue with the fractal introduction is that I'm doing a zero to hero playthrough and I'm climbing through the tiers and I have to interact with it.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
I'm
Yeah.
having to do tier 2 fractals with pugs that don't really understand the whole like, hey, have a healer, have a boon DPS, have these things. And then you go into Lonely Tower and just get mopped up. You get mopped up by that fight. Even though, yeah, at tier 4, if you're running CM groups, like you could blast the normal mode easy, easy. I mean, I cleared it in 2 pulls on release without exploiting the malice bug, which that's another thing that happened,
Yeah.
right?
That is another
But
thing.
but it's one of those things that when you introduce these fractals, like you are introducing interference into normal players' daily routines. Like people do that daily. And now you're introducing like this turd sandwich, like here, eat this and along with your meal. And it's like nobody wants that. Nobody wants
Yeah,
it.
maybe this is a hot take, but you know, fractals will be better if Lonely Tower didn't exist. Okay, it is what it is. That the fact that that released, it's just literally bad. Okay, I would rather not existing. It's just like nobody wants to do that in normal mode. I don't think anyone wants to do the CM. So like, what is it? Like, why
What's it
does
there
it
for?
exist? It's just, it's a waste of time, and it kind of sucks to say, but and I wish it didn't because I was kind of excited for it, but it's just
That was
not
my
as good.
last light of hope of Soto. I was like, okay, so they released. A hot take for me is I think Dagda CM is appropriately balanced. I know everybody here
I
probably
kind of
thinks
agree with
it's
you actually.
boring, but it is puggable, and pugs don't just instantly one-shot it. So it's appropriately balanced, in my opinion.
I agree.
What?
Actually.
The
Yeah.
fractal, yeah.
I agree with him. Yeah, I agree with him too.
Dagda?
I have discussed you. I
Dagda
have discussed
CM
with
is
you.
appropriately balanced.
Sneb's like,
Yeah,
did I hear that right?
that the Snap just got insanely traumatized
Uh,
by Dagda by
my
one-shotting
ears
him and
are
eventually her,
my
and
ears
it's
are
over.
bleeding. Put it
Yeah.
this way: if you think Dagda is balanced as a challenge mode, right? Think about this: a challenge mode. It's supposed to be a challenge. I had friends that hadn't played the game in like months because there was no instance content. They hear about Dagda CM. They haven't ever done normal mode. They look nothing up. They all log out of Final Fantasy. They log into Guild Wars 2 on release. They enter Dagda and they killed it in one pull. And then they all sat there in absolute bewilderment. And they logged back into Final Fantasy and have not come back.
I'll throw
Sure.
Well, I mean,
myself.
I don't think that's
I'm
a
gonna.
good example because, like, I mean, they are expecting something that the CM, honestly, I don't think it should be. Like, they're expecting something like legendary, I think, like at that point. Because, like,
It's
look,
a challenge
what the
mode.
point?
It's
Well,
supposed to
but
be
let me
Yeah,
challenging.
give.
You shouldn't kill it in one
no,
pull. Come on.
yeah, but if you're good at the game, honestly, you should. Like, it's the
Yeah.
What?
same thing in
No,
heroic
come
now.
on.
Well,
Yes,
It goes further than
yes,
that,
here's
Terrence.
that.
Terrence,
yes.
it's further than that. I would say that I am good at the game. I do care about learning. I do pay a lot of attention. I've now beaten that CM probably 20 times, and to this day, I have no clue what any of the mechanics are or mean. I just
Well,
go
yeah,
in
but
there, I push my buttons, I beat it, and I'm like, I don't think I could effectively train this because I can't explain what's happening.
well, but
But
there are
somebody in
things
your
that
group
do.
does,
Like,
right?
yes, and yeah, that's the thing. Like, look, sometimes you can not know what's happening and you just avoid the attacks and you probably be fine, right? But someone is fixing the problems that you're having to do in the fight. Like, and I'm not saying that is like omega good. I don't think it's super good. I think it's kind of boring, honestly. But
Yeah, I
the
think it's
CM
boring.
should be something like you can just like you can just go in with a pug, know more or less what to do, and you have to do big damage and you beat it. Okay,
You
the
can beat that
legendary mode
entire
is what you
fight by
actually have to
saying
like.
you say
Yep.
stay out of bad. If it looks like it hurts, it probably hurts. You can say that
Yeah.
one line and anybody can beat that fight.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I don't think every CM has to be like, okay, we need to do this, and this, and this, and organize everything in order to actually beat it. I think as long as you are okay at the game, because like the normal mode should be like, if you're complete dog trash, you can still beat it, honestly. And the CM should be like, you have to actually be able to do damage and not get hit by stuff, and that's about it. Because like, look, I actually went and do the Dagda with pugs, and it actually took us a few tries. And like, I get it, you guys didn't, and that's nice and that's fun. That's cool. I mean, well, it's not fun, but it's good. But like, it's not gonna be the same experience for everyone, right? And I don't think it should be. I think Dagda it's CM is fun. It just needs a legendary mode that is actually hard and well
Yeah.
designed. And I will not say that Dagda CM is well designed either. Okay, because to be fair, Dagda, the fact that you can stack the greens is completely stupid. I don't know why you can do that. And there's a few bugs and it's a few things that don't really make sense. But that doesn't mean that they didn't achieve what they should have been in terms of what the fight, and what the fight should do in the first place. But
Yeah, my thing, the reason why I feel Dagda CM is appropriately balanced, and I've said this since it was released, all right, this isn't just me being contrarian, but I feel like it's appropriately balanced because as a player that plays a game 8 hours per week and understands the game systems, I don't need to set up a special time with all of my friends to clear it. I can hop in, throw a pug group together, and get the clear in a reasonable amount of playtime. And I feel like that is kind of where the CMs should be. Just like this, I mean, the same criticisms can be said about Soulless Horror. Hey, don't get flame walled. And if there's red stuff on the ground, don't stand in it. Like, okay, does that mean it's a trash fight? Like, I don't
Uh,
think that. And it's one of those things that it's just
oh,
the difficulty needs to be around that level, because yeah, all of the sweaty raiders that quit Guild Wars 2 and went to Final Fantasy return and wow, they're still good. I don't feel like that's an appropriate
So
level
No, I
to
must
judge.
respond. I am
Yeah,
compelled. Look, I logged in with some of the sweatiest gamers ever on release and did AHCM, and we failed a whole bunch because we had to learn the mechanics. Once we learned the mechanics, it was free. It's easy. It's super puggable. But when I first logged in and everyone was trying to figure out what the mechanics did, it took us a while to figure it out. Just like any pug group, if they've never done it before, they're going to be like, oh, like what are the greens? How many people are in the green? But it's still very doable. It's like an appropriate CM level. Dagda, you did not have to do anything. You didn't have to know what anything did. I literally had people that had never done a raid before, and we still killed it in one shot.
So
It
nobody
is
was
absurd.
nobody was spiking her with spears. Nobody was spiking her with
Okay.
spears. Nobody was kiting the little thing at your feet.
Yep.
Like I
Yeah,
have a hard time
also,
believing.
okay, but snap. Wouldn't you argue the same thing for like Anka? Like, if you know normal mode on Anka, do you really need to like know anything about the CM? Like, you just do the same things. You do a bit more damage.
No, it's slightly different. You had to solve the puzzle, right? Like there was a slight wall, right? The puzzle. Remember when it phases and you have to go down and put the thing on the different bombs, right?
Yeah, the magnetic
No,
bomb
yeah, on
puzzle.
Blade, but I'm talking about
Oh,
Anka.
sorry,
I'm talking about
Anka.
Anka CM. Yes.
Actually,
What's
Jay,
it, in Anka, it's the same thing, no?
You just need to kill
You
the
have the
ad
Quaggan,
before it
which are a
eats the
bit
towers.
harder, I guess.
It's the ad, yeah. The ad made it harder, I guess.
Yeah, but like, is
so
it
we're
really
we're kind of
like,
describing
real?
that content is on a spectrum, right? You start with IBS,
Yeah.
they call it the easy 3, then you go to fast 5, then you have some like EOD strikes or Soto strikes, then you have CMs. So I think we've established that the Cosmic Observatory, Dagda CM is easy. So if you're saying that's appropriately balanced, do you think all the CM should be appropriately balanced? Or are you comfortable with the fact that there are other ones that you have to build a static for and grind out?
No, so I'm completely fine with static CMs existing or CMs existing that a static is mandatory. And I think Sneb made the best point about the LCM and the CM for TOF, where the CM isn't different enough. It is still too hard in comparison to the LCM. They're too close together. And I think Dagda, if Dagda had an LCM that was significantly harder, that would be completely fine too. I just want the new raid content. I want Wing 8 to kind of fall, as far as CMs go, fall around the level of Dagda. And if it's a little bit harder, or if they incorporate some kind of party wipe puzzle that you need to figure out or you can't progress, that's fine. But as far as my big thing is forming groups without having to devote extensive amounts of time to it. Because like the Gamer Haven has a large community. Skane Gang has a large community. Darren has streamer privilege and has his own community. Like,
whoa,
like
yes,
for me,
Whoa!
We've got a badass over here.
I don't know. Well, Darren's is like the hard stuck figurehead on NA, right? He's one of the main people that reps hard stuck. But for players like myself, I don't have a community, and I kind of join and tag into your guys' communities and just kind of pop in when I can. But as a player with limited playtime, which I feel like is the vast majority of the way people interact with Guild Wars 2, I feel like that difficulty level is appropriate for a quote unquote challenge mode. And now that LCM exists, I have no problem dump as much bullet hell, as much brick wall that you guys can bash your heads against into the LCM category. That's fine. And I think even like HTCM is appropriate. Like that it was meant to be for that community. And
Yeah.
it's fine to give them that, you know.
Okay,
Yeah, I think
let's
so.
back this up a little bit because I think we can agree on something. I think that 3 difficulty modes makes sense. The one thing I think we disagree about is I think a challenge mode should not be clearable by anyone on the first try. I think if I had gone in to CO, for example, and I had like died because I didn't know where to stand during something. Like it was more consequential, like the mechanics were, and you actually had to avoid them, then I would have been like, you know what? Like I'm comfortable with that. But the fact that you didn't have to even engage with anything that was going on, like what's the difference between that and any normal mode thing? Now, there are some people that probably have to because maybe they're not quite as strong of players or whatever, but they were going to have to do that anyway. I just think if it's a challenge mode, it should be challenging. It's my same gripe with Dragon Response missions. Dragon Response missions, they came out with the challenge mode. I logged in. I went into the LFG. I took 4 people and just said, let's run a standard fractal comp. And we cleared every single one on the first try.
So challenge is obviously subjective. So if you had to put an objective label on it, I think what you said was really, really good. The objective label for is it challenging, because the challenging mode should be challenging, would be your average group should not be able, even your good groups should not be able to clear it on the first pull. That's a great point. If it requires more than one pull to learn the fight, that's good enough for me.
Yeah, that's good enough for me too. And I think that should go for everyone. I think challenge mode should be puggable, but you shouldn't be able to be like, log in, new challenge mode. It dies in one shot. Or if it's challenge mode, you don't have to prog at all. It's just kind of weird. However, I would agree that Guild Wars 2 just needs more content that you just jump in and do. And I think that's actually why I hate the Lonely Tower fractal so much, because I logged into that with some of the best gamers in the game, and it was like unplayable unless you exploited the fight, right? And that's not fun either. So there's this kind of tender balance, this dance that you need with instance content, where some of it needs to just be like, we go in, we grind it, like we're turning off our brain a little bit. We're just having some fun with our friends. It dies. And I think the normal modes, for me, they don't quite scratch that itch because they're actually so golem. Like it's not very fun, but the challenge modes can do that for me specifically. And it's a weird balance. I think that the issue is that some challenge modes are just so much harder than others, and they can fix this with LCM if they do LCM right.
So
Yeah,
I
I
feel.
think.
Oh, go ahead,
Sorry.
Darren. Go ahead.
Well, okay, thank you. I just think, for me, I agree with the whole legendary stuff. I think it's what should happen is that CMs should be at the lowest Anka/Dagda CM level, and I think at the highest it should be legendary, well maybe even more, right? Ceres, right? And I think that's kind of. Oh, sorry, my bad. What was I saying? The CM should be from Dagda/Anka to maximum Kaineng. But maybe that's a bit
Agreed.
too much.
I like that, but I would actually just squeeze it a little bit further. I think it should be just a little bit harder than Dagda. Like I'm okay with Anka and I'm okay with KO. I just think Dagda is this anomalous, like evil encounter.
Well,
and it's mostly because the mechanics don't actually work. Like I don't know if you guys know that, but the fight is bugged to oblivion. Nothing actually works properly. Like the greens don't work. If it actually functioned as no, it's totally unintended. They'll never say that.
Now.
I would definitely say that the whole green stuff, I don't even know why you would have the green stuff.
I don't like that I can clear something 24 times in genuinely paying attention, not actually know what the mechanic is. Like that was my biggest complaint earlier, is how can you do it so many times and not understand it, even though you're like... And now it makes sense. I didn't know it was bugged. I didn't know they don't work.
The numbers don't do anything. Like, guys, the fight is just bad. It's broken into oblivion, but it could be good. If the numbers and greens worked, then the fight would actually be on par with some of these other encounters we're talking about, and it would be fine. But it's the fact that it actually just doesn't do anything. Like the CM is just useless.
Well, I mean, okay, so to be fair, I think I just don't see the difference that much between Anka and Dagda CM, I guess. I know that Anka has the legendary mode essentially with the title, which is maybe what makes you guys kind of like it more. But I would say like you still have like, I think the biggest mechanic in Dagda honestly is just the arrow that kind of one-shots you if you don't stack in the correct spot, right? I think that's the only thing really does anything. And yeah, it should be more, and I definitely agree that the green should actually work. I'm not sure if like the numbers should one-shot you, but I definitely think if they had the green on, I think it would be appropriate level. But I don't think. I, I think the difference is not that much that it makes it like complete dog trash, and it's just not a C, and it shouldn't be even be a CM, right? Is probably what I would say.
Do you think we will ever get a better matchmaking system?
Yes, I think after Wing 8 or when it actually releases. I think
I'm really hoping they rework that.
Are you talking about for PvE?
No, like LFG. Like I
Okay.
want something more clear. Like even if it was like take the LFG for what it is, take those 10 slots and make like heal support in the DPS, and like even if you just sign up to one of those spots to make it clear. You know, anything. Oh my gosh.
So
Give us
that's
something more than what we have.
I feel like that's an interesting conversation because obviously the LFG is hot garbage in Guild Wars 2.
Flip it.
It started as something that was manageable and reasonable back in core when we just had dungeons, and even then it was kind of a mess. It did not release on launch, by the way. We did have like Guild Wars 2 dungeon.com or whatever it was to actually form groups, so that was a problem. But now it's just so bloated. It's the same thing with the achievements panel and trying to find anything in there. It's just every time they add something, it's like, oh well, just make sure you add another rung on the LFG, and it's good, and we're done. But in the same sense, there's a big divide between retail World of Warcraft and classic World of Warcraft because there's a lot of features in retail like auto dungeon finder, you can port to the dungeon and stuff like that that are being requested by classic players, and the classic community is like, oh, you have that, it's in retail, like go play retail if you want that. And there's like a big argument going on between those two groups. So I feel like yes, what we have right now is bad, but it's somehow in ArenaNet fashion there is a way to make it worse, and we need to be careful what we wish for.
No, I mean, yeah, they could make it worse, but I think I don't think anyone's like, oh, I don't think the whole like queuing system would really work in Global Shoot just because of the boons and the way they work. But I think what we should definitely have is just, you go to LFG, and you apply as quickness healer or alacrity healer or quickness DPS or alacrity DPS and DPS. I think that's the only really thing that it needs. And then we're probably fine because it's very annoying as a commander to be like, okay, who left and who was
Yeah.
quickness? Oh my god, it's just so annoying, and it makes it so much worse for like new players also to understand. Oh, this is how this game works. Because like if they go into the LFG and they see, oh, they need quickness, quickness and alacrity DPS, and healer and alacrity DPS, healer, quickness, and
Do you think it would be as
and they're gonna be
simple
like,
as
oh, this
them
is how
just
this game
adding?
works.
Do you think it'd be as
What?
simple as them just adding an application where you just like when someone joins, you see their name or something and just have to click accept
That
or
also
not?
would be very good. Yes, I don't know why we have
just-
this system where we have is like
I'm gonna
everyone can
nuke
join
this
at any time.
conversation
It's
so
insane.
hard. Holy crap.
Okay.
Guys, we're way
Oh my God.
overcomplicating this. If you want to look, I wrote a list on Reddit actually. I'm going to give you 10 things that are wrong with the LFG, and none of them are like auto queue. If you fix a bunch of these, then I actually think it will dramatically improve groups. Now, the auto group finder, obviously that could be very good, but I think that's actually like a big ask for ArenaNet. I think that's like a big update, right? So here are just a few things that they could do that I think are relatively simple. One, these are just going to be the problems, and we can talk about solutions after, but the commander tag and squad functionality are locked behind a paywall. This means that progression or less experienced groups are less likely to form. They can form, but they'll have no ability to put down markers, and they won't have a commander to organize subgroups, etc. 2, there's no way to enable a request to join feature, which allows people to grief groups or puts the commander in an uncomfortable position where they have to kick people constantly. I've had groups completely disband from this, by the way. For example, if I'm looking for a tank and someone keeps joining on DPS demanding to play with the group, they'll keep taking down the LFG. There's nothing you can do to stop this behavior. Blocking them does nothing. 3, for instance content, fractals have soft gates to prevent new players from jumping in with experienced players, like the tiers, right? But raids and strikes do not have this, and they're only locked by level 80, I think. This means that brand new players can boost, have zero understanding of anything in the game, no masteries, and join a high-level experienced raid group. This is extremely awkward for the commander who then has to kick them. No one likes being kicked. So these are just 3. There's 10 of these. The LFG has tabs. The LFG doesn't have like a service selling or static recruitment thing. The LFG is super bloated. There's a million tabs. The raid and strike things are dichotomized into experience and training suggests that an experienced player is going to walk you through the content. There's no progression culture. People lie about their experience to the point where people have fled to the nice discords that won't force you to like play with liars, right? And then not having something like gear check makes it so that it's really difficult to manage who's playing what role in your squad. There's no transparency system, so you have to constantly communicate, which is cumbersome. These are huge issues. Some of them, like gear check, probably a bigger thing, similar to like an auto group finder. But some of these are easy to solve. Just cut the bloat, like go to the code and just like delete a line or something. Now that might like destroy the universe, but
Yeah,
I mean, it's worth a shot.
Dungeons will be broken.
We're gonna get
Dungeons will
another
be completely
Little
bricked.
Dragon. It's time. Yeah. No, I agree with all of them. I think.
So,
those
yeah,
things happen. Yeah.
I agree, and I'm sure that since you posted it on Reddit, it was downvoted into oblivion, and you got called toxic. But
Wait, what are you talking about?
I'm
What
sure
did I
since you posted that on Reddit, it
No,
got
I didn't.
downvoted
I got
into-
upvoted into oblivion, actually. It was like,
Oh, really?
Ascension. Well, no,
Oh.
it was on a thread that said, what quality of life features would you like to see added to this game? And I said, a much better LFG, and it was upvoted as one of like the top things. And then
Nice.
somebody said, what's wrong with the LFG? And I said, hold my beer.
And then you-
it's like,
You've activated my
yeah,
trap card.
you've activated the trap card. I just like started writing. I was like at work and I was like, oh, it's lunch already.
Yeah,
I just
it's
wrote all this thing.
I like when you talk about how like no one likes kicking and no one likes being okay. Some people like kicking, all right, they exist. But
Darren's
no one
likes
likes being
kicking. He
kicked.
enjoys it.
I wish I did.
I ran into this literally just the other day. I was pugging something and I realized looking for EXP DPS wasn't enough. So because people that didn't know what they were doing kept joining. So I wrote out, experienced players only. Someone joins and goes, hey, how do I get there? I'm like, hey, the LFG post said experienced. Have you ever done this? No, I'm new. Is that okay? And I was so nice. I said, I'm really sorry, bud. This is an experienced group. You have to know what to do. We don't have all day to teach and train. We do train. We do teach. This is where we do it. This isn't that run. And he was like, fuck you, and left the squad. I was like,
That conversation should never happen. That it's a huge problem. ArenaNet, listen to me, I beg you. That conversation should never happen in your MMO. A new player should never be able to join the experienced tab and join whatever group they want. Why? And this is why people don't use the LFG. People like Sab are super freaking nice to this person. This happens to me all the time too. Somebody joins and I think I mentioned this in one of the other podcasts, but I'm still upset about it. Person joined, I said all necromancer run or something like that. They join on a mesmer. They're like, I've never done the fight before. And I said, do you have a necromancer? And they said no. And I said, we're doing a challenge run. You cannot join for this, but I am happy to train you later. And they said, this is why the community is toxic. And I'm like, holy buddy, I was just super nice to you. I should just flame everybody. Like, what am I doing here? This is absurd. Like that, the conversation should never happen. I do not want to engage with people who are brand new in the experience tab. And that's not me being elitist. It's me not wanting to have a confrontation with somebody because having to kick someone it's not cool. I don't want to do that. If I set a standard, I don't want to have to like reinforce that standard in rude and mean ways all the time.
Yes,
I
it's
was
not
so
even
nice
about
to
the
him.
experience. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I was so nice to him, and I even gave him alternatives, and the fact that he was just like, fuck you. I was like, and I feel I feel entitled to, like, I train raids so much that when I finally want to run with an experienced group, everyone's like mad at me and they're like, you've changed.
Yeah, I don't know. These people should never be listened to ever. They're stupid. I don't know what to say. Like, they're insane. They're literally insane people, and they should never be taken into account at any point ever. They're just illogical, and they should be. I mean, I don't know, they should be banned, but look, they do not deserve any type. The fact that we're
Damn.
talking about this is already too much. Okay. That being said, I would say that it's not really about the. I think phrasing it as like it's about experience. It's not even about that. It's about people going to your group and meeting the requirements that you set up for your group. Like, there's nothing experienced about bringing a necromancer, right? Just asking, hey guys, join my group as a necromancer. That's all I'm asking. And if you don't, you are not a necromancer, you should not be able to join. That's it.
Dude, you know what this is like? This is like a restaurant says no shoes, no shirt, no service, and you walk in naked and like, sorry, dude, you can't be in here. And they're like, what do you mean?
This is a free country. Like, what the fuck? Like, come on, dude. Read the sign.
And they go straight to Yelp.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's stupid.
Straight to
These people
Reddit.
should not be taken into account.
Yeah, it is absurd.
Just,
I don't want to have the conversations anymore. Like I don't want to go in the LFG and like argue with people about the group that I made that I'm trying to do like a specific goal or I don't want to have that conversation. It's exhausting. And frankly, I don't want to make enemies all the time. I don't think that's fun. I think what is fun is making new friends. And you know what? This is probably the least spoken about thing when it comes to the LFG. I want the LFG to be a tool for me to build relationships and make new friends through grouping up with people. That's what I want it to be. But it turns out that it's actually like the opposite of that. That if you use the LFG, you become the most demonic hated person ever because you have to kick people and you have to have these tough conversations with people. I think it could be a much better tool for socialization, creating community, building friendships than it currently is. And that starts with a bunch of the things that I mentioned before.
Yeah, I agree. Oh my god, I agreed with Snav. Oh, it's over. The podcast is done.
Cancelled.
Did you guys know that if I join, like if I'm on Discord with Darren's or just like in his chat, there is a non-0% chance that I will be departnered?
What do you mean by non-zero? Well, it's like 90%. The fact that it hasn't happened yet is incredible. Holy. The only talk about the gooning and other, very interesting topics in my chat. So yeah, I mean,
Hey,
it's kind of insane.
Are we? I'm gonna go ahead and bring up that tweet snub that aged very nicely. Do you have a date set?
The slug stream. Yes, it's
all
amazing.
all the people who made bets about Wing 8 and it actually happened. Someone within ArenaNet was sitting there like, yes.
Yeah, actually, wait. Can I talk about Dave's bet, Snub, or is it too much for your stream? You think? Do you know it?
Wait, what is it?
Let me send you a DM, and then you can tell me if it's okay.
Okay, yeah, you DM me. I'll take a look at it.
Yeah, I'm. You guys can keep talking. It's okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I thought I made a. Some of you might know that I try to keep up with making a new original meme every day regarding Guild Wars 2. And that was I think that was one that I really liked the other day. Snip, can I post this in your chat? It's just a link to the meme.
Sorry, you post whatever you want. I just read what Darren's wrote. No, Darren's, do not talk about that one on the podcast.
Okay.
The non-0% chance. Oh man.
Yeah, it's pretty.
So this one was widely received with everyone confidently making bets that Wing 8 would never happen. Meanwhile, ArenaNet's over here scheming.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're actually gonna do it, Snap?
Oh, of course I'm going to do it. I'm a man of my word. I also want to overtake Darren's for like the top 5 Guild Wars 2 clips of all time. So I'm going to need. I'm going to need to like create a lot of clippable content for this. I have some plans. Yeah.
It's gonna give real filthy Frank vibes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. It'll be good.
Then you can start your music career.
Yeah, so for the people that are wondering about the slug stream and the context, basically like 2 years ago, I think it was on Teatime where I first said it, but I just said, look, Wing 8 is never happening. Like I will role play as a slug, cover my entire body in Vaseline, and writhe around on the kitchen floor or something. If that actually happens. And turns out that and then later, I said it again, but in a Twitch chat, and I just said, look, it's never happening. I'll cover my body in Vaseline and roleplay as a slug if Wing 8 ever happens. And I think Mr. Mystic actually screenshot that and saved the receipts and tweeted it, and then Grouch tweeted it, and then a bunch of other Arena employees are like very excited about this. I find that kind of weird. Like, can you imagine that if there's like they're sitting at like in the boardroom, you know, around a large table, and one of them says, "What can we do for the new expansion?" And somebody just says, "This streamer guy said he would dress up as a slug and cover his body in Vaseline if we released Wing 8," and everyone's like, "Wow. We have
That's good
to do
exposure.
That."
Yeah, they just,
Think about
that's
this
great
marketing.
exposure.
they just pulled out a screenshot from a manila envelope and slapped it on the table. So
They're like, "Hey guys,
I appreciate your
gonna
sacrifice for raids to be back."
it's gonna feel
honest-
like a strike and it's gonna look like a meta, but let's call it a raid so this guy has to do the thing."
Base. That's pretty base, actually. They made a
Yeah.
multi-millionaire fucking decision for Snap. I think that's pretty good job, Snap. I'm happy for you. That's pretty good.
Yes,
And I
it'll
think
be
it's
good.
very good
I will do
advertising.
it.
I will post this in livestream fails. I will do it. And even if
hope-
that takes me out of the top 5, it's okay. I'm good with that.
I hope one of the raid bosses is a slug named Sneb.
Well,
And
I
don't
actually
snap.
look. I'm saying it
Oh
now,
my
Arena. I've called upon you like 3 times this podcast. I'm calling upon you one final time. I demand that I have an Easter egg in the game if I do this. I will never be able to delete this from the internet. The least you can do is put like a little goose in the raid aerodrome and call it Sneb, or put like a slug in there and call it Sneb. Please, I beg you. It's on my bucket list.
Okay. What if
Yeah.
one of the bosses is a huge goose? A huge goose that in the second phase transforms into a slug. Okay, and you have to kill.
That would be very
Now
good.
that is very good.
Anyways, the last topic I want to briefly talk about, because I know we're at about the 2-hour mark here, but the last topic is, you know, relinking happened. Well, is it? It's not relinking. What was that even called? The world versus world, like reorganization of this. Yeah, it's kind of like alliances, but not really. Restructuring. That's it. Restructuring happened, and it was pretty fun. I think. I'm kind of curious
good.
what everybody is thinking about it and feeling about it.
I'm excited to play with my friends, and we don't all have to spend money to make it happen.
Yeah. Also,
Yeah,
Sab,
I
you
mean-
should join the Zeg Alliance
You
with
should.
Gamers Haven.
fun.
And Silhouette, you should also join, and we should all, like, you know.
Didn't we just
play.
miss the mark for that? When's the next?
Well, yeah, you can do it next month, though.
In
Just
6 weeks.
Okay.
No, it's 6 weeks.
oh, damn, that sucks. But yeah,
Yeah,
but you can get
so-
in next round.
There's
We didn't
a,
plan for it this time, but I will for the next one. Go ahead, Sil.
There's a smaller creator that I actually joined their community. Dude goes by Pseudo's Build Wars 2, and
Oh,
he,
yes,
does,
I
he
know.
does some streaming, and he focuses a lot on PvP and World vs. World, and real down to earth dude. And so I joined his community and his guild for the Alliance reset. And my total thoughts on it is I think that it's cool that you can now join these communities and just like be like, yeah, I want to play with them. And then it's done. You know, you don't need to worry about like, oh, well, we're based out of this server or that server. And it, for somebody like myself who is largely a solo player or a pug random enthusiast, it's way better to be able to be this kind of nomadic player that joins this group for raids, this group for World vs. World, and you don't need to really be too concerned about like building your own community. You can just kind of like hop in and hop around and really like enjoy the community and all the different communities that are in the game. And I think that it's good that World vs. World has that now, that you can join a guild, and if you want to be a part of a clouding guild, you know, one season and then join like a fight guild another season, then you can do that, you know. And that's kind of my thoughts on it. I don't really partake in World vs. World or PvP a whole lot, but it's good to see the game mode getting some love, because if it does become this more enjoyable experience through the interface, through rewards, which ArenaNet's done a good job of putting those carrots into World vs. World, I think that more players that haven't been super enthusiastic about it will start gravitating more towards that game mode.
Do you think the world being full, stopping people from joining their friends, is just going to be replaced with the guild being full? The guild cap of 500 is the new world full.
Well, maybe, but I mean, like the Zeg Alliance is like 230 in it right now, right? Like, there are some alliances that have 500, but they're just kicking people that don't play World versus World, right? Like they're going pretty hard. So maybe I actually think that the bigger issue right now is that, and this is I think just a result of this being pretty new, but there's a bunch of people that came into my chat last night that were like, oh, I accidentally clicked Skane Gang and not the Zeg Alliance, and now I'm not with you guys. And I think this is why like the alliance idea was going to be kind of interesting, but it's the 6-week thing that I think is going to throw people off. I almost would have liked to see them make this like little season thing a little bit shorter so that people like have this like, oh, I screwed up moment, and then 2 weeks later be able to fix it or something. But you know what? It's probably going to be fine. It just kind of sucks for the people that didn't get in right away.
Yeah, I think it is good in some ways that it is so long because you don't want people feeling like they're not attached to their alliance. You want them to be like, okay, I'm stuck here and I'm gonna have to play and I'm gonna have to get invested into this server for this week's so I can actually, learn and whatever. Because like you don't want people like, oh, this sucks, I'm leaving instantly. Like you want them
Oh,
to actually try, I think.
oh
And I think
wait,
that's
this is big news to me.
What?
Azure just said that if they submit a ticket to ANET, they will fix it.
Yes.
A friend
Yeah,
was
sometimes
manually
too.
moved. Oh, that's massive. We should really spread that information.
Yes.
That's really
We should
good.
do that.
I
did
thought
not know
that
that.
was the case with the last beta. In the last beta, there was a lot of people that got misplaced on teams, and it was
Yeah,
fixed
but
pretty
that was
fast.
that was for a bug. But I think they're probably gonna be very lenient on this one because it's the first time. So if you say like, guys, look, and especially if it's like Snap gang, like the Sky gang, right? You're like, guys, look, we did a Wars Alliance and I picked the wrong one. Can I just get in the other place, please? And they probably will be like, yeah, it's fine, just get in. So I don't think it's gonna be a big of a deal.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
think that it's cool that it's like, hey, I can run with Zag this season, and then I can change the next season and kind of split between different communities. I think that that's a way more functional, better way of doing things than the traditional
Yeah.
server.
There's certainly
Yeah,
good
because
and
you need
bad to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's so hard to understand what a server is about, like other than playing it on it. Like how would you ever get the information, enough information to actually make a decision? With guilds, it's a bit easier, I think, because like, well, if you have a guild, you probably have a Discord, and you're gonna be able to understand more or less what they're about. So I think overall, it's a good change. We'll see how it ends up. Hopefully we don't get the lag that we got yesterday. But that's probably because of reset at the end of the day. I don't think it was like I think reset usually is very laggy. I don't even think it was more laggy than other times. Was it? I don't know.
I think
Yeah.
some of that is because of the hype too. It's new.
Yeah,
It's a feature a lot of people have been waiting for, so everybody's gonna just do it just to do it.
yeah, I think so. I think so too.
Snub,
But I think
I
it's.
like.
Oh,
Sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say like I think some people don't like it. Specifically the people that are very attached to their servers. They're like veteran players. But I think this is more of like a feature for new players to get an easier way of getting into War's World, which I think overall is a good thing. Even if sometimes it will affect veterans in a bad way. But
Yeah.
Sorry, I
You
was just
know,
gonna add.
sorry, go ahead.
I'll explain it. I'll explain it for the Spotify crew that my wife simply popping in chat saying hi. Sneb interprets as Sab has to leave.
Well, we are going a bit longer. I'm just, cognizant of
just
that. So
checking.
I'll just say one last thing I think that's really interesting about World versus World. I'm kind of concerned about. I don't know how to play World versus World that well. I like the idea of leading a bunch of people into battle. I think it's funny. Like I've done some like funny stuff, right, where I've portal bombed people, but I've never really played on reset doing that because whenever I play on reset, I get just slapped, right? Like,
Yeah.
and what I'm afraid of, and this could be totally irrational, but what I'm kind of afraid of is that alliances have allowed the mega, like the super powerful people to all kind of team up together. And I don't stand a chance against those people, right? And so how do I learn to be better at World versus World? I find this very difficult in my experience trying to I like World versus World, don't get me wrong, but in my experience trying to get better is that the people I'm playing with, they're like they have no patience for it, right? If they're World versus World players, they're like, I don't want to be following around this guy to my death for the next hour. they'll just go join somebody else, or they'll just roam or something, or just play later. And so it's really difficult to actually get out there and improve at world versus world. Yeah, I guess that's my take on it so far.
I think you and I are in the same boat. I'm just hoping that my grouping falls so low that my competition is minimal and it allows me to like play with the other noobs. Does that make sense? To learn my way up. If I get thrown into a higher tier right off the bat, I'm like, well, there goes my opportunity to figure out what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's kind of one of those things that the only way to get better, sadly, is just hit your head against the wall over and over and over and over again, and it sucks, and eventually, it'll work out, I guess, maybe. But I think it's just the nature of War vs. World, and because the game is so old, it's just how it ends up working. I do think like the whole alliance thing is gonna be good because ideally you will get if you're bad, and you're a bad commander, quote unquote, right? There's nothing wrong with that. You'll be placed in a server that fights against other people like that, which would be ideal.
Yeah. And so that has me in an interesting spot, right? Because I've joined this alliance with people that are clearly like good commanders. Maybe we're not all the best commanders, but this just puts me at an interesting disadvantage. It's like, how do I rank up? Look, we were playing against the Anvil Rock United. That's the server that I was on before. I knew who all those people were, and they were stomping us over and over and over again last night, right?
And the moment that Azure took in, we blasted them, and they just got destroyed.
Well, so I also think that it was different because it was the moment that we combined. I actually don't think last night was a very good measure because what happened was our whole guild got split in two, and so the alliance was, rather than 50 strong, it was like 25 and 25. I don't know how many Azure had, but we had like 25 to 30 the whole time. And the problem was that the other alliances that we were facing, they had 50. So
yeah, they have everyone.
So we would go in and we'd actually make a dent. Like some of our portal bombs, we dented them, but then they were like, puny alliance, you must be destroyed, and they'd just wreck us after that, right?
Yeah,
so I think there was something more to that.
And then no, I agree. I think we'll just have to play it by ear, right, and see what happens. I think.
Like I think I could probably get better, but I couldn't do it with 25 people against 50 that are better commanders than me. I think it was really difficult to improve there. But anyway, that's an aside. Anyway, I think we should wrap up. We've already gone over time. Thank you for being so patient, all of you. I appreciate you. But yeah, please we'll start with Darren's. Give yourself a shout out. Tell people where they can find you, what you're up to. Also, shout out to Linker for the raid.
Yes. Well, you can join me in my Discord. I guess just go to my Twitch or YouTube, and all the things are there. We make videos every day, and we do meta trains and other events every day as well. And you can join us on an A as well. We are actually doing a fashion contest after this, so you can join us on an A and EU in like 20 minutes. So there you go. I guess post in the chat, but yeah, there you go.
Wicked. Wait, you said you're doing meta? I got to jump in with you. Anyway, Sab.
I have to do a fashion contest after this.
Fashion contest. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure, Sneb. Thank you for having me on this. Darren's good to see you again. Sil, excellent meeting you. I'm sure we'll become better friends in the future. Yeah, you guys know where to find me. Discord, invite code GHaven. All of our information is there. I'm very much community first, stream and everything else second. So you'll see me around.
All right, and I am Silhouette of Silhouette Gaming, and let me say Happy Father's Day to Sneb and Sab and all the fathers out there doing the Lord's work. And with that, I just have YouTube, man. I made a Twitter 5 minutes ago. I am not going to use it at all, so just YouTube. I post at least once a week, and some of it's gameplay stuff, some of it's thought stuff, and some of it is more meta meme commentary about the community. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me, and happy Father's Day to everybody.
Yeah, Darren's children are all the people that are in his meta trains. So.
He is nobody's father, but he's everybody's daddy.
Okay. Well, he knows me.
Anyway, it's been a great episode. Thank you all. We'll catch you next time.